So here's a look at what's coming up on the show today. We'll get into some of the biggest stories from the weekend, and believe me, there were multiple. So we'll get into that monster trade as well from the NHL, the one that dropped on Friday night. Yeah, my jaw might have hit the floor. Cole Reschny is in Niagara Falls, originally from Macklin, Saskatchewan. He's at Team Canada's World Junior Camp, trying to crack the roster there. We're going to catch up with him. He's the only player representing Saskatchewan, by the way. So 4 o'clock is when you can look forward to that conversation. We'll talk to him about how camp has gone so far and, of course, what it took to get there. Brendan McGuire, voice of the Regina Rams, is going to stop by because we are diving into what has been a pretty active CFL offseason so far. I mean, I'd like to see more, but it's not about me. We're going to talk about some pending free agents, the Riders, of course, what might be coming next in the CFL. We'll take a little peek into his crystal ball here. Of course, the NFL, we're going to talk about the playoff race chaos. And we have some CFL off-season storylines to get through as well. In Pat's chat, not sure if you heard, but Teddy Bear Toss Night was on Saturday evening at the Brandt Center. This was a game that had everything. A fight, a penalty shot, 13 goals in total. Maddox Schultz nabbed his first career WHL goal. Oh, and he also got a second in the same night. Multi-point night for him and Liam Pugh. 2,182 teddy bears raining down onto the ice for kids in the community. It's always a fan favorite. The Teddy Bear Toss game, of course, 29th annual, if I'm not mistaken. So we're also going to be previewing the Pats' final game prior to the Christmas break. Prince Albert will be rolling into town on Wednesday evening. We have some tickets to give away to that game, too. We'll get to that here shortly. We're going to be asking for some of your input on the Prairie Land Rentals text line. But by the way, as Prince Albert rolls into Regina this Wednesday evening, a familiar face in the Pat sees Malachi Martin. He could potentially be suiting up for the visiting squad because he was called up last week, and he played in Swift Current for PA last week. I do believe he nabbed an apple in that game as well. The Regina Pats also announcing today that they have traded 2007-born forward Julian Mays. He is off to the Calgary Hitmen in exchange for a couple of third-round picks, one in 2027, one in 2028. And again, yes, you can always join in the conversation on that Prairie Land Rentals text line. Whatever you need to get the job done, Prairie Land Rentals probably has it. Also, an official Husqvarna snow thrower dealer. You can deal with the owner at 600 Albert Street. And I was told earlier, Albert Street, a bit of a mess in the city right now. So there are some detours kind of navigating through there. So just a heads up in terms of traffic. But of course, if you see anything or if that does clear up, the Prairie Land Rentals text line is 306-936-6262. Plenty more on the show today, including the next step in the festive feast bracket. This is something that Barney has been doing, and we are going to continue this today because Barney is back in tomorrow through Thursday. And then, of course, he's going to be taking some time off on Friday, but he will be back tomorrow to take us through more of this festive feast bracket. So, Colson, you put together all of the hard work here, and we have seed 2 up against seed 7. So, sour cabbage rolls versus butterscotch confetti.
Yes, I should get my own camera ready or something too in all of this,
Yeah.
So I can explain what's going on. But yeah.
The festive feast bracket, though, we're trying to find the best of the best, the foods that you absolutely need to have on the table this holiday season. I'm going to be honest with you, Colson. I don't think I've ever had butterscotch confetti.
Butterscotch confetti, that's the peanut butter and marshmallow squares.
Oh, I was always just calling them the peanut butter squares.
Yeah, which makes sense. That's what's mostly in it.
So that's the official name.
Yeah. As told to us by one Betty Walchuk, and I trust Benny implicitly, so we'll go with that. But sour cabbage rolls are number 2 seed. Barney and Sharky were kind of surprised at how many people were favorable to sour cabbage rolls over
regular.
Non-sour. Yeah,
because to specify, these are not regular cabbage rolls.
Regular cabbage rolls are in our number 3 seed, and they will be competing tomorrow. So
a little teaser there.
Yes, but still, you can vote in all of our
socials, and you can text it in.
Our votes are on X or texting in. Those are where we're taking votes. But yeah.
So you can comment elsewhere. It's just not going to count.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, number 2 versus number 7, sour cabbage rolls, butterscotch confetti. And then our other one today is the 4 and 5 matchup, stuffing and turkey.
That's a tough one for me because I do love a good turkey if it's done right. However, I love a good stovetop stuffing. Like, I don't want the homemade stuff. I want the sodium. I want it to be bad for me. And I want it to be cheap. Because what are those, like $1 a box? So I'm taking stuffing and I'm taking butterscotch confetti.
All right.
I don't know if my votes count, but I see you pulling out a pen, so I'm assuming they do.
Well, I have to keep track of the votes somewhere.
That's true. And your pick?
I am not a cabbage roll person, so
neither.
I have to go with the butterscotch confetti. And then I've recently become more interested in stuffing, but I like turkey too much. So
yeah, turkey's pretty good. Edging out ham is my understanding.
Yeah, ham is the 6th seed. Well, turkey and ham were close to not making it on. They kind of snuck on. I mean, it's hard.
Well, you have two different kinds of cabbage rolls in there.
Yeah, but it's hard when it's the staple and it's just kind of the expected thing, right?
Yeah.
So then the accessories, the flavorful accessories, if you will, get the love, the stuffing, the gravy, etc., right?
Are cranberries on the list? Did they make it?
Not the list. It's a smaller bracket this year, as we're a little compact with everything that's going on. You don't want to put your bracket up against the CFL schedule release, so...
There's more important things, I guess. So Saskatchewan. The fact that I know there's going to be pierogies on there, 2 different types of cabbage rolls. Yeah, that makes my heart happy. The festive feast bracket. As Colson mentioned, you can vote on Twitter. You can also text us on that Prairie Land Rentals text line, and we'll tally them up. We'll have a winner by the end of the week. 306-936-6262 is the number to text us at, so we can tally everything up. More major stories from the weekend. Oh, geez, I feel like we should just dive right in with the NFL because that was quite the day. Holy, lots of injuries, couple shutouts. Week 15 had a lot of playoff implications, some crazy comebacks, dominant defense, heartbreak in some franchises, and yeah, there was humbling moments to say the least. In Philly, the Eagles shut out the Raiders 31-0. Now, after last week's turnovers, Jalen Hurts, he bounced back. I know that's and that's not the only shutout. We're going to get to that in a little bit, though, because it hurts my heart to say this. In Baltimore, over the Ravens. The Ravens, and the Bengals. Okay, so 24-0 in that one. Their first shutout in 7 years. Lamar Jackson, he did look like he was kind of his old self again, but the other piece of this is, yeah, Lamar looked better, but the Bengals looked terrible. And I'm saying this as a Bengals fan. So Lamar with an 84-yard interception return. Listen, it was cold. It was snowy. They didn't even clear the snow off the seats in Cincy. It's overall embarrassing. The Bengals are eliminated from the playoffs, and I just feel like considering their ops staff didn't even clear off the seats, like everybody might have just given up in Cincinnati at this point. And it breaks my heart because you've seen all the comments. You've seen everything that Joe Burrow has been saying. Is he done there? I don't know. It
feels really, really, really like this is way ahead of even the Andrew Luck timeline to be calling it early.
I know, but the way he was speaking to media prior to this weekend's game and the fact that he outright just said, okay, he didn't say it in this words, I'm paraphrasing, but he's not having fun anymore. He's not enjoying himself anymore. There's some things going on in his personal life. Obviously, this guy has been riddled with injuries. So he's probably not in a very good mental headspace either. We're going to see. It's going to be an interesting offseason in Cincinnati, I think. And that sucks. But let's move on from Cincinnati. I'm sure it's going to be coming up again throughout the show. The New England Patriots. Blew a lead. 21-0. Wild loss to the Bills. Have you checked in on Barney?
I haven't heard from him yet, so I probably should.
Yeah, we should make sure he's doing okay because what happened?
Need to make sure we have a show tomorrow.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. He'll be fine. He's been a Patriots fan long enough. Wasn't he cheering for the Cowboys at one point? He'll be fine.
No, he's all in on the Patriots, always has been. He's been quiet when they aren't good.
That's the difference. Okay. Well, we should check in on Barty. Someone should also check in on Josh Allen because he was getting sick on the sidelines. I did not need to see that video on Twitter. We are not playing it on the stream either because I am not subjecting that to you this close to supper time. But Josh Allen battled through one of the biggest comebacks in franchise history there, too. Once again, showing why he is elite. He is an elite quarterback, and he is so fun to watch. 5 straight tutties. And now, this is also playing spoiler for New England, right? The way that you look at this, their chance to clinch the AFC, it slipped that much further away. So, interesting game in that one. Also, we need to talk briefly about the Chiefs because they have been obviously a huge topic of conversation the past couple of seasons. But is this the end of an era, as Taylor Swift fans would call it? Eliminated from the playoffs. But Mahomes, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm here all afternoon. I was going to say all week, but Barney's back tomorrow. Chiefs eliminated from playoff contention for the first time in the Mahomes era, losing by 3 to the Chargers. And of course, Mahomes with that ACL tear. Oof. They're saying timelines for that aren't looking good.
And happening late in the season, too.
Yeah.
Because that could eat into next year.
Well, yeah, there was a story I was reading this morning. They were saying it could be as long as 12 months, depending on the tear itself. Like, I'm no medical professional. I don't know. All I know is I saw him go down, and it looked nasty. It's one of those ones where you physically cringe. I've never had an ACL tear in my life, but I can only imagine the pain. And that wasn't the only ACL tear this week either. But we'll get to that in a minute. Denver kept rolling, beating the Packers 34-26 and clinching their playoff spot, pushing their win streak to double digits and staking a claim for the AFC's top seed. The Packers, they did have those 2 injuries, as I alluded to. Yes, another ACL tear and Micah Parsons, and of course, Christian Watson going down before him. Again, don't look at those videos. You don't need to see that. It's not fun. Chicago reached 10 wins with a 31-3 triumph over Cleveland. Caleb Williams, sharp defense, 3 picks. Not bad game there either. Washington snapped an 8-game skid with a 29-21 win over the Giants. It was a big comeback week, all in all. If you're an NFL fan, that was a fun Sunday. That was definitely a fun Sunday. Big comeback week. At least 6 teams overcame double-digit deficits to win. That's tied for an NFL single-week high, which is crazy. So a good weekend for football. And of course, the major storyline, you heard all about it last week. I'm sure that was the major topic of conversation if there was anybody having people over to watch some football yesterday. Philip Rivers and the Colts. Okay, Philip Rivers, we all know that he's been removed from the game for almost 5 years at this point. He's coming in, hasn't really been playing. He's been focusing on family life and everything. He's got a bunch of kids, also a grandfather now. He's learning this new offense. And at 44 years old, he almost led Indy to a win. Like, they fell short to the Seahawks, sure. But Matt, that game should not have been that close. And if I'm not mistaken, we also have a clip of him getting a little bit emotional after that victory yesterday.
I think maybe it will, I don't know, inspire or teach, to not to run or be scared of what may or may not happen, Hopefully, certainly I think of my sons and those ball players, that I'm in charge of at the school, that they'll say, like, crap, coach wasn't scared. You know what I mean? It's like, shoot, sometimes there is doubt, and it's real. And again, you can the guaranteed safe bet is to go home or to not go for it, and the other one is, shoot, let's see what happens, And so, I hope that in that sense that it can be a positive to some young boys, or young people. It doesn't have to be boys, but
now let's be clear here. It's not like Philip Rivers played a perfect game. He had his moments. He looked a little shaky at times. However, he played better than I expected. I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but for anybody being out of the NFL for 5 years and then coming in as a starting QB with an injury-riddled Colts team, he stood up. He stood up. He did what he had to do. And we all know that he has been coaching high school football as of late. And his high school football team had a watch party, and they were freaking out. Well, now that he's back in the NFL as a starting QB, new jerseys for everybody on that high school football team. So cool. And what a story. Like, that is not something you see every day. So, yeah, the Philip Rivers saga continues for the Colts. Let's shift gears a little bit here. NHL. I feel bad for anybody who has a retro Canucks Hughes jersey under the tree this holiday season. It's definitely going to be a throwback jersey. Yeah. That was a monster trade that came through late on Friday. My jaw did hit the floor when I realized that, oh, that's where Quinn Hughes is going. Okay, he's going to the Wild. All right. Was not expecting that. We all knew something was coming, but that wasn't exactly the trade that I was expecting to see. And not to be overshadowed, of course, that Skinner-Jari trade Friday earlier in the day. But yeah, that monster deal, Quinn Hughes going to Minnesota, that was a big talker over the weekend. And then Connor Bedard Former Regina Pats, he is now officially listed on the IR after what they call a freak accident. So it was during that loss to the Blues Friday night. I think there was 18 seconds left on the clock or something like that. And he was on the faceoff circle and he got pushed, but it wasn't the push that injured him. It was the way that he fell. And he kind of awkwardly fell onto his right shoulder. I don't know if it's a shoulder or his collarbone or what it was. They're calling it an upper body injury, as you can imagine, and that he will be reevaluated in the new year. So, again, not a medical professional. I don't know what it was, but it didn't look awesome. He was holding his shoulder, skating off, going to the locker room there. So maybe we'll get an update on him in the new year and he'll be back, but we'll see what happens there. Colson, I did have another question for you, though. Are you done your Christmas shopping?
Yes, I am.
You are?
My wife is a Christmas fan. Fanatic is the full-length word for fan, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so she loves Christmas. She loves giving gifts. So she is very ahead of it. And so being that she is ahead of it, I get brought along. Right? So
you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
We're both done. I think there's a couple finishing pieces. Like everything is pretty much wrapped. And if it's not wrapped, it's like the bag is there and we just have to wrap it or whatever, right? So,
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, you're a gift bag kind of guy.
It depends on the gift and who I'm giving it to, right?
So if you like them more, you put in the effort to wrap it?
I have younger brothers who really appreciate tearing it apart.
Right.
So they'll tear it apart. And then I have sister-in-laws who, sure, they enjoy tearing it apart, but I know some of them will try to save the wrapping and whatever, right? And be really nice about it. So.
Oh, hell no. I'm ripping right into that thing.
Yeah.
I appreciate people who are good present wrappers. My mother-in-law is one of them. And she does it kind of in a low-key mean way, because she will put clear Scotch tape on every single seam of the wrapping paper, except for one tiny little corner. But you have to find that one tiny little corner in order to open it. Mm-hmm. There have been many times where I have considered just taking a knife to it.
She doesn't do like a layer of wrapping and then a layer of duct tape and then a layer of, those kind of ones?
Thankfully, no. Don't give her ideas, though, Colson.
My bad.
But you're done your shopping, which is a success, 10 days out from Christmas.
Yeah.
And that makes you in the minority.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't always like that. Like I said, it's credit to my wife.
Yeah, it's the wife. 30% of people at this point in the season actually have yet to buy a single gift. Now, you're going to identify these people on Christmas morning when you notice everybody got windshield wipers from Sherwood Co-op down the street. Mm-hmm. Like it's a clear tell. Or, I mean, you could just get one of those cards saying a donation has been made in your name to the Human Foundation. But
it's also an option.
I mean, I've thought about it. Those charity gifts are pretty cool, though. I'm not discounting those. Just make sure it's an actual charity. Mm-hmm. George Costanza. Okay, let's take a little trip back in time. I'm going to put on my Rob Van Stone hat on this day in sports history. Just a couple of items for December 15th. 1925, the first hockey game at Madison Square Garden was played. It was the Montreal Canadiens beating what was then called the New York Americans 3-1. This day, 1980, New York Yankee Dave Winfield became the highest paid player for 10 years, $15 million contract, which sounds like peanuts in this day and age in the Shohei Ohtani era.
Well, to them. To us, it doesn't sound like peanuts.
Well, I mean, I'd still take it.
Exactly.
But for a professional athlete, like what? Shohei's making $700 million or something like that?
Technically, he's making $2 million a year.
Well, deferred payments, whatever. Well, and this was 45 years ago.
Yeah. Apparently, I forget who they signed, but the Dodgers signed another player today, and their deferred payments total up to over $1 billion now.
That's a lot of scratch.
Yeah.
That is a ton of money. Yeah, I mean, $15 million still sounds pretty good. That's more money than I'm ever going to see in my life, and that's what one person made back in 1980. So contracts are crazy. 1997, December 15th, San Francisco 49ers Joe Montana retired. 2019, 6 years ago. Not that far ago, but it was pretty substantial. The Raiders played their final NFL game in Oakland, conceding 17 unanswered second half points to go down 20-16 to the Jags. And yeah.
That's not a great way to end things.
No, especially moving to Sin City in 2020. Mm-hmm. Thanks, fans. I feel so bad for Oakland fans in general.
They lost to everybody.
Yeah.
The Raiders, the Warriors, the
A's. It's to be an Oakland fan, an Oakland sports fan in general. My heart aches a little bit for them. My heart also kind of aches for anybody who has a birthday in December. Because I know a lot of people who have December birthdays, but I feel like he gets shafted when it comes to gifts.
My sister's is on the 22nd. She jokingly calls her birthday the Christmas planning party. It isn't. We do the planning much more in advance, but yeah.
But you still you can't help but feel like you get a little bit less. In fact, on average, a person not born in the month of December, they get an average of 6 gifts on their birthday. If you are born in December, it's more like 4 on average. So it's statistically proven. It sucks to have a December birthday. So sorry to hear about that. Although I will say Tommy Stevens, his birthday is today.
Ah.
He's 28. I think he's okay, re-signing a contract, Grey Cup ring. Yeah. He's probably okay.
Yeah. I mean, he said if he wasn't signing back with the Riders, he'd be on his couch. So
yeah. So
I'm sure he's okay with this. Yeah.
I'm sure he's not too upset about it. But happy birthday, Tommy Stevens. Okay. Also, as I mentioned right off the top here, we do have some Pats tickets to give away for Wednesday night. If you want to go, I just need your input. I need you to tell me what the best ODR is in the city, because I've lived here now for 3 years. I have not yet strapped on my skates and hit up an ODR. So let me know on the Prairie Land Rentals text line at 306-936-6262. If you tell me what the best outdoor rink is in the city, we will pop you into the draw, and we're going to be giving away those tickets at the end of the show today. So right after 6 o'clock, someone's going to be scoring some free tickets to the Regina Pats Prince Albert Raider game at the Brandt Center this Wednesday night.
As of 3:05 p.m., by the way, Brady Oliveira has extended with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers through 2028.
Okay.
Figured we should get that in before we go to break.
Breaking news here. Well, not really. That was 20 minutes ago, but I didn't check. So, Brady Oliveira.
We're not exactly actively watching the Bombers' social medias, sorry.
Probably should. This is the Monday edition of the SportsCage, brought to you by Kellen Solar. 35 years of experience moving water from a dugout to a well with or without electricity. Visit kellensolar.com to find out more for your livestock operation. Now, coming up next, let's talk some hockey. Daniella Ponticelli, play-by-play voice for the PWHL, and she's also calling play-by-play for Canada's women's team at the Olympic Winter Games. She joins us next. This is the Sports Cage on the home of local sports on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com. Welcome to the Monday edition of the Sports Cage. I am your Monday host, Teagan Witko, joined by Colson, who is manning the show, making sure the stream is working on sportscage.com, our YouTube channel as well, and of course on air at 620 CKRM. Joining us next on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline, Western Pizza gift cards, by the way, a perfect stocking stuffer for gift exchange. Whatever you're looking for this holiday season, hit them up. And don't forget about their catering options as well, Western Pizza. Daniella Ponticelli joins us. Of course, play-by-play host of the PWHL, going to be calling some women's hockey at the Olympics this year. But she is joining us to break down the Canada-USA women's rivalry and the road to the Olympics. But before we get there, Daniella, something very, very important we need your take on, okay? It's our festive feast bracket.
Love it. I'm ready.
So we got to talk about some Christmas food. What must you have on the table? Number one.
Stuffing.
Stuffing is in there. But does stuffing trump turkey? You got to pick between.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's an easy. I thought it was going to be more challenging. Yes.
Well, we also have sour cabbage rolls versus butterscotch confetti.
Oh, come on. That one's to me harder. I'm going to go with butterscotch, though. I'm going to go with butterscotch.
So that's a vote for butterscotch, toffee, or confetti, rather, and stuffing. Mark it down, Colson.
That could be also a list of the things I would love to subsist on forever. So, it's all good.
You know what? People can't tell me that I'm not allowed to grab a box of Stovetop in the middle of May. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, okay? I love my stuffing. I'm right there with you.
You have a hang for it during that time, too, because that's when there's no big holiday meal on the horizon. So
yeah, why do we got to backload the year with all the stuffing? That's not even fair.
100%.
Okay, let's talk some hockey. The real reason that you're here, you have been calling a lot of high-level women's hockey, Daniella. I want to ask just first and foremost, what jumped off the page to you most in this recent Canada-USA rivalry series? It didn't fare very well for Canada.
No, I mean, to me, I look at it and I go, the USA, they're ready and they are executing on the plan that they really set forward for themselves after the last Olympics. Of course, they finished second. They got silver. Canada's the reigning Olympic champion. And of course, they want to return to that in Italy next year. But the Americans really were thoughtful, knowing they're going to have turnover on their roster. And that's when they injected the youth. And if anyone has been watching any of the women's games the last several years, you're going to notice those names like Carolyn Harvey, Abby Murphy. She, to me, is a pest on the ice no matter where you put her. She's a problem in every way. She's just great offensively and a projected top pick in the PWHL draft next year. So you just have so much young talent, and they've really come together at the right time. For Canada, you're seeing the fraying ends, in my opinion, of a roster that is showing its age, but not just in terms of actual age. I'm talking about perhaps the way that the game is played or the thought process strategically even for these teams. They need some more speed up front. That is key because the U.S. is beating them on that, and they're just so quick and they have to be so strong defensively. I know that seems like the most obvious takeaway, but Canada's defense has to find a way to come together. And one of the things I want everybody to remember is the women's game, especially, you could look at it as a pro and a con. Prior to the PWHL, there were leagues in existence for women to play in. But the national teams would make sure to centralize around the Olympics. And that centralization, I mean, my broadcast partner, Becky Keller, went through 3 of those. She took her young boys with her to Calgary and lived there for a year, uprooted her from her mom came to live with her. Like, it was a major life choice and attitude when you were centralized with your team. And that was all you lived and breathed. That is not happening anymore. And it's not happening for the United States either, right? But because the league is happening, everything is going right up to the last day. January 28th, Teagan, is when the PWHL has its last 4 games, meaning all 8 teams will be playing. Then the players leave for Milano Cortina, and they start their tournament February 5th. So when we say it's a tight turnaround, we mean it.
Yeah, no kidding. Obviously, a couple of things that Team Canada is going to need to clean up before you hit February. But what did you see positively in Canada's game, if you could extract something that you think is working really well for this squad?
Well, we're seeing that they are able to adapt. I mean, let's just flush that 10-4 game. And what I mean by flush is don't forget about it. Don't forget how that felt. Obviously, these Team Canada athletes will tell you they'll probably never forget that. It was just such a breakdown of everything all at once, between the goaltending, between the defense, and just offensively, they could not get going. They couldn't find a way to rally and kind of push to the end there. So you take that and you want to build on it. And absolutely, we saw a much stronger game out of Canada in that 4th and final game. This is also a much shorter rivalry series. The last couple of years, it's been a 7-game series, and Canada has reverse swept those. But a good reminder that for the Olympics, it's one and done. So you need to come out, you have to win through if you want that Olympic gold. And I think overall, seeing that was really a positive. I also like the fact that sometimes having this is when you want to have your adversity. Maybe not so close to the Olympics, but what I mean by that is you don't want to be only discovering this when you're in Italy, because it's way too late at that point. And Canada has to seriously look at themselves and go, first of all, we must never ever take for granted that we're going to A, make it to the medal rounds, and B, end up in that final, because the way that Czechia and Finland are coming together as the perennial bronze medalists on the world stage, they could easily push ahead. So just an important thing there is, I think, just the mental aspect of it. In terms of players, I noticed, I want to just showcase about 3 of them very quickly for you. Jen Gardner has been a really fun Canadian rookie to watch. So she got on the national team last Women's Worlds. Canada came so close to winning gold in that. It went to overtime as they almost always do. It's such a fun and intense rivalry, but she was everywhere you needed her to be. So even though Canada only scored 7 goals to the US's 24 in those 4 games, she was net front screening if you needed her. She was assisting. She was on the ice when those moments happen, and that's very key. And I think that can't be overlooked. She also has great chemistry with Poulin and Stacey. Now, I know she wasn't on that line in Game 4, but those 3 just went on a tear with the Montreal Victoire last season, helping Montreal win the regular season in the PWHL. She was a nominee for Rookie of the Year. So really like her game. Love as well what I'm seeing from Emma Malte. Great piece about her. She's 27 years old from Burlington, and she's 5'3". And I mention this because I'm also of shorter stature. And I look at her and I'm like, that's the type of player that I would want to be if I was a player. She's tenacious, and she has continued to take on more roles. There was a great article on her by the Hockey News, C. Benwell, saying she's taken on an expansion of responsibilities. She's one to watch. And finally, on the defensive end, I think one of the biggest offensive threats for Canada is Sophie Jakes. The only concern with her, she would be another rookie coming to the Olympics, is that she does sometimes end up in trouble with giveaways. So how are they going to manage that? Do they want to run the risk there? I would take it, in the need of some more offense, but we'll see what happens.
I'm glad that you shouted out some specific players, because there was one other player that I wanted to ask you about that you didn't bring up just yet. Brianne Jenner, and a milestone goal, right?
Yes, she did. She became the 13th player on the women's national team to reach 50, and what a beautiful goal it was. So nice, and it's just so great to see. And guess who's there? Gardner is there hugging her. So just talking about Gardner and her impact. Brianne Jenner, it might be surprising to hear, but there's a lot of questions about, is she going to come back? The reason being is she's a key veteran player, but she's among those where if you need to swap out for speed, is she going to be someone you have to, set aside? But she's also someone who does this. And I found that she is such a difference maker with the Ottawa Charge. She's basically the reason, one of the big reasons that team became the first Canadian team to the PWHL finals, sorry, not playoffs, but finals. So I like her. I like what she brings. There's a calmness to her. She has that. She's very consistent. So I think, I would put her on my Olympic roster, but I'm also just warning everyone, like, she could be one of those players. And you're looking at, Natalie Spooner, who's she's a mainstay on the roster, but she's also someone, like, as things get older and you're looking at how do we compete? And then also, how much of your roster building is just to contend with the United States? Where are you in the whole idea of this tournament, and how quickly it goes, Teagan? Because I said it starts on the 5th of Feb, and then it's almost just like a week, and then it's done. It's so quick. So you have to keep all of that in mind, and that veteran experience can really be helpful when you start to think of the mental aspect of the games.
It's interesting that you bring up roster construction focusing on your opponent. Obviously Canada, U.S., big rivals, but who are the other big dogs in the fight that maybe Team Canada fans should be watching for?
I teased it already, but Czechia and Finland. And the reason being, too, is that they have so many players right now in the PWHL. So they are absolutely playing against these same goaltenders. Like, they have taken it. Like, I've seen Czech players just score, leaps and bounds on Canadian goaltenders. So you start to know people's tendencies. You start to understand things more about your opponent because you're not only seeing them once a year. You have Carla McLeod, the head coach for Czechia, of course, is also the head coach for Ottawa. And despite her recent breast cancer diagnosis, she will be behind the bench for Czechia. She has helped them to back-to-back bronze, which that was something that they had never accomplished in the World Championships. Finland, though, they're back-to-back bronze medalists most recently. And guess what? Their head coach is also in the PWHL, also with Ottawa. So the Finns and the Czechs, who are they could have their own rivalry series. Their head coaches are behind the same bench. So there's a lot of learning going on in a very short amount of time. So I would definitely say, watch out for them. The Finns have really good goaltending. And once again, their national goaltender is currently in the PWHL. She's a backup goaltender. So it's one of those things where the influence of the North American style, the players, the mentality is starting to, be shared on a wider scale. And there's so much learning taking place. So I would say watch out for Czechia and Finland. And if it's not this Olympics, absolutely the next cycle. It's the days of just Canada and USA at the top. We've been talking about it. That is going to shift and change. And we've seen it on the men's side, right? Internationally, that's no longer just a given. And with the growth and proliferation of women's hockey, that in a weird way, that's kind of the dream. But for Canadians, I always want Canada to win. Come on.
Oh, of course. Daniella, there's been a lot of talk about the Olympic rink. It's been talked about ad nauseum. We've seen the videos. We've seen the images coming out of Italy, and it has a lot of people concerned. And even the NHL, they've stepped forward and said we need to make sure it's safe for the players. Now, we have heard a lot of the NHL's side, though, from the women's game perspective. There hasn't really been a whole lot in the media. Are you hearing anything? Do you know if there's any owners, coaches, players concerned?
All I can say is there has been, you're right, the media attention and focus has certainly been on the NHL, and that's because Commissioner Gary Bettman has actually made statements about it. So, and I think it's worthy and important to note those concerns because you want to get ahead of it, knowing what's happening. The benefit for the men, though, is that their competition starts a week after the women's. I mentioned February 5th. The deadline right now for that venue is February 2nd. They had to cancel a January test event. I know, I almost get anxiety just saying it out loud. So the hope and prayer is that everything is going to be running smoothly. And they have apparently tapped the shoulder of some Canadian companies to make sure that things like the ice surface are ready. This is what I've read and heard. So you have to hope that everything is going to come together at that time. I don't know anything about contingency plans. I know nothing about any of that. So I'm not here to spook anyone. But the PWHL, of course, player safety is always going to be paramount. I don't know if the league is going to necessarily step forward right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we heard something soon, right, as we get nearer to that date. And I mentioned, like, the league is continuing to play up until the end of January, so it is possible that as we near and get closer to it, we could hear more. But at the end of the day, I think player safety is always the concern. The ice surface is going to be a big one too, because it's just going to basically be in there and go, right? And you're playing this amazing tournament on this ice. So it is one of those things. And people, what I found interesting too, Teagan, is of course people online are pointing to other Olympics where, well, there were delays this year or this happened in this year. And that's true. I mean, this is an event that sort of requires a quick turnaround when it comes to building an entire brand new facility. That being said, it's always still, a concern because you do want everyone on the ice, officials as well, to be safe.
I've had renovations go wrong in my house before, Daniella, but, a misplaced shower tile pales in comparison with this one. So here's hoping that it all comes together.
Also just seeing there's like a missing wall. Like there's just a lot that you're going, okay, this is a little scary, but
if they think they can figure it out, guys. But Daniella, as someone who's been deeply involved in the PWHL, how much do you see this league affecting, and you've kind of alluded to this already, but how do you see it affecting the rosters in, these Olympic Games, and how many more players are coming to the forefront and being interested in this, level of compete?
I think, it's not even my opinion. It is absolutely intertwined. And in fact, if for those who watched the rivalry series, the fourth and final game, there was this great piece that TSN ran right before showing the Canadian locker room and some discussions that were had actually not on game day. And GM Gina Kingsbury said, by the way, your play in the PWHL will absolutely influence your spot on this roster. And that is kind of exactly what players want. Players, I always think of Daryl Watts because she was someone who, for the longest time had sort of just accepted she was never going to play on the national senior women's team, that she just hadn't gotten her foot in the door at the right time, and that window had closed. Then she goes and has an amazing rookie campaign in the PWHL, Ottawa's leading scorer, comes over to Toronto, does even more, does even better, and of course is then playing under Canada's coach, Troy Ryan. And she's now she was on the World Championship team last year, and she's now potentially going to the Olympics. So we're seeing it, and we know that the influence is there. Hannah Miller is an interesting case. I don't want to go too far into it. She actually played for Team China, and she did that because she was playing in China with the women's league at that time. She's from North Vancouver. She's Canadian. And it's the same sort of idea that right now Canada is trying to work out her potential availability to rejoin her national team. And that's only because Hannah Miller was electric and has been electric in the league. So we're seeing very real examples. And I think that, you don't want to put it all in the league. Canada's done that. Canada only has one player on their roster not currently in the PWHL, which is Chloe Primarano, a generational talent. And she's currently playing in NCAA. And she's doing that a year early, Teagan, because that's how good she is. Why not? And I've seen her, she was the captain of the U18 team that won gold last year. She's just incredible talent. So the point is Canada's putting a lot of its eggs in that basket, for better or for worse, whereas the U.S., of course, started making their roster changes well before that the league formed, and that's why they have 9 college players versus the 1.
Wow. That's impressive. The rivalry is alive and well, though, as you alluded to. Game 4 happened over the weekend in the Canada-U.S. Women's Rivalry Series. I remember, I'm not sure if you were still in Regina at this point, but back in 2024, it was hosted at the Brandt Centre. And I remember Canada just working the States. They won, I believe they shut them out 3-0. And that building was absolutely electric. It was sold out. It was I get a little bit of chills thinking about it because it was just such a fun night, such a fun environment. It was a packed barn. I don't think you could get standing room only tickets. Do you think there are chances or more opportunities for them to bring back one of these games to Saskatchewan?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely see the value in continuing that. And as for all we know, rivalry series will continue. The biggest question mark is when and how. So what I mean by that is the Women's World Championship, by the way, is going to be permanently moved to November. And it's not just because of the Olympics. It used to be that in an Olympic year, there was no Women's Championship because it would be around the same time and kind of achieving the same goal. This time around, they're moving the Women's Worlds to November, where it will stay, and it will be basically the lead up into the PWHL. That being said, the rivalry series has always been over winter, and it was supposed to be the precursor for the championship. So it'll be interesting just to see how and where and the rivalry series will continue. From what we know, it will. That's what we've heard. And then just who will kind of form those teams. And it is great because it allows the showcase to go to Saskatchewan, and Saskatchewan loves its hockey, and it's going to show up, and people are going to be there for it, and it's so awesome to see. I love that, and I hope that happens too. And I know people, by the way, have asked about takeover tour in the PWHL. And why didn't Saskatchewan get it? I am not a decision maker in this. You know that my vote would be for Saskatchewan to get a game. But I can say there will always continue to, I think, at least in the next few years, there should be more takeover tour games happening, even with expansion. So even if the league is like we're at an expanded level, and I just don't see that going away because of exactly what you just said, Teagan, a chance to bring that hockey somewhere new, expose the league to new fans and more people.
Well, yeah, I'm willing to bet that if you were to bring the Ottawa Charge to the Brandt Centre, you'd have no problem selling tickets there, right?
Yeah, of course. I know there's just so much. And yeah, exactly. Emily Clark is the one from Saskatoon who heads that. And yeah, and by the way, she's someone, too, that I feel very confident, of course, will make that Olympic roster, as she's been steadfast there. I'll never forget meeting her right after coming back she came back from 2018 with silver, and she just kept saying, all I want is gold. That hurts so badly, being, at that other line and watching. So I know she's motivated and ready to do the best for Canada, too.
Of course, Saskatchewan's own. Speaking of women's hockey here in Saskatchewan, we had a really interesting conversation with Megan LeBlanc last week, and she was talking about this incredible start to the Saskatchewan Senior Women's Hockey League in its inaugural year. They had, they weren't expecting to have 11 teams in its first season, so this is a brand new league. Clearly, there was a gap that needed to be filled, and it was drawing attention right away. Did you notice that gap when you were here, and do you notice that gap maybe in other provinces across the country?
In terms of noticing it, I just remember having lots of conversations. Of course, I got my start with university hockey. And so just speaking, even just with the players and their journeys and how a lot of them from Saskatchewan had to go elsewhere because your options are so limited and where you can play. And you want to play with women, high level girls hockey and things like that. And you have to really make, as we all know, lots of sacrifices when you go on these journeys as athletes. So there was definitely like, okay, there's an opportunity here. And then I remember having a discussion when the news was announced about that league. I had a discussion with one of the organizers and they said, oh gosh, we could easily have 10 teams or 11 teams just in Saskatoon alone. Like the need is there and the skill and the talent is there. So none of this is surprising. I love to hear that it's successful because this is, I believe, exactly what we need to continue to do to foster Canadian talent, and hopefully get them to keep growing the game in our own country. As much as the NCAA is clearly the pathway to the PWHL right now, it cannot be the only one, especially in a league that's looking to add possibly 4 new teams next year, doubling up on its original amount. And you need reserve players and you need, continued growth and continued talent in the league. So I think this is fantastic. I would love to see more Saskatchewan players or even just people coming to Saskatchewan to hone their craft. And one other thing, Teagan, I think anytime you have a league, you have to remember the opportunities that it opens up for coaches, for officials. The need for officials is always there, and bringing in and growing, especially female officials, is so important. And just everybody involved in the ecosystem of hockey, support staff as well, getting great experience on what it's like to be working with these teams. And even from an even wider perspective as a broadcaster, right? The broadcast opportunities that could potentially come forward as well. So I just love it all. And I think it's so important that it continues to grow.
Are you teasing that maybe eventually down the road one day we might have Daniella Ponticelli come call one of these SSWHL games?
If they asked me, I would do it. Absolutely. That would be amazing.
I got a contact. I'll get to work on that. No, but I guess overall, the only other question I had about that, how does that strengthen the pipeline for the PWHL?
It just opens up a greater avenue and a potential for players being seen at a younger age, potentially, or, hey, there's this player I think that might work really well in what you're trying to build here. We can bring them in as a reserve player. There's lots of that also needs to be bolstered and trying to get people into the I'm going to use ecosystem again, but into the PWHL mentality, because of course there's a lot of contact in this league, and ideally you're going to start seeing other leagues potentially pick that up so that players are even more ready for that next step.
So what's the schedule look like for you now with that tight turnaround? I know that you're going to be calling Canada's games from out east here in Canada, but it is a tight turnaround from the PWHL season into Olympics. So do you get a break at all?
Oh, no. That's okay. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm calling a game on the 28th and then doing some ski cross because I'm also calling ski cross for the Olympics. And then, so there's just a lot going on.
Well, Daniella, we probably won't chat again until the new year. So I just want to say happy holidays, happy new year, and we'll have to do this again sometime in January.
Thanks so much. And yes, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you.
Of course, Daniella Ponticelli freezing up there at the end of our discussion here, but thanks to her, PWHL play-by-play announcer, going to be calling women's hockey games from Toronto. They're going to be playing in Italy. So thanks again to Daniella for that conversation. Coming up next, we have the Sports Ticker, so hang tight. This is the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com. Well, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have signed 2 American defensive linemen, Sonny Anderson and Davin Van. The Regina Pats have traded 2007-born forward Julian Mays to the Calgary Hitmen in exchange for 2 third-round picks, one in 27, one in 28. In the NHL tonight, 2 Canadian teams on the ice, and they face each other. It's the Ottawa Senators in Winnipeg to take on the Jets at 6:30. Wrapping up this week in the NFL as the Dolphins travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Tua, Rogers. Should be a good one. 7:15. NBA, you got the Raptors heading to Miami for a 6 o'clock tip-off against the Heat. By the way, Raptors 15-11 and the Heat 14-11 right now. Also, our SportsCage.com poll. Do you think the NHL will play in the Olympics? Given the delays in rink construction, you can vote at SportsCage.com. That is the sports ticker, brought to you by Reliance Group of Companies. And also, we need to ask you to participate in the Festive Feast bracket. So we have our number 2 seed, Sour Cabbage, up against the number 7 seed, Butterscotch Confetti. So you got to pick between those two. The way voting works is Colson is manually tallying these up between 2 separate locations. One of them being the Prairie Land Rentals text line, 306-936-6262, and on X. You also want to give us the number 4 and number 5 seeds?
Yeah, that would be stuffing and turkey.
That's the tough one. I feel like that's the one people are really split between.
Yeah, I feel like everyone else is pretty much... You know what you're voting for in the other one.
Yeah.
It's not a discussion. Whereas turkey and stuffing, I think there's a lot of people having to weigh their heart and their mind or their stomach. One of those.
Yeah, it's a hard-hitting question that we need you to answer right now.
Yeah. Right now, it looks like butterscotch confetti is leading over sour cabbage
As
rolls.
it should.
Well, based on the text we had earlier and last week, I think there's a lot of people that would be upset if that happened. So...
I'm throwing
Get
all
your
my
votes in.
Yeah, I'm throwing all my support behind Butterscotch Confetti. Okay, so make sure that you get those into us. Again, Prairie Land Rentals text line 306-936-6262. And while you're at it, texting us, let us know what the best outdoor rink is in the city, because I need some help determining the best one so I can get some skates on over the holiday break. And that might win you some Pats tickets for Wednesday night. Okay, coming up next, Cole Reschny from Macklin, Saskatchewan in Niagara Falls with Team Canada's World Junior Camp. We're going to catch up with him shortly. This is the Sports Cage at 6:20 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com. And welcome to the Monday edition of the Sports Cage. I am your Monday host. I'm Teagan Witko. Colson is here with me, making sure the stream is running at sportscage.com, on our YouTube channel as well. And he's keeping us on the radio at 620 CKRM. However you are listening, you are always welcome to join that conversation on the Prairie Land Rentals text line at 306-936-6262. Because let's be honest, you've checked out already. We are 10 days out from Christmas, last full week before a lot of people just take off for the holidays. And yeah, maybe we're a little checked out here too. But yeah, Christmas a week from Thursday. It's a very unproductive time of the year. And of course, there was a lot of football to watch this past weekend. This is when it gets real in the NFL. And lots to unpack there. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Now, I do also understand and respect that this can be the busiest time of year for certain people, like those in retail, who have heard Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You 20,000 times to the point where you want to rip your hair out. We feel for you. We got you. We got you. Mostly everybody else is just sitting at their desk or on the work site just scrolling through TikToks. But, the Christmas-themed ones, because you got to get into the spirit. But you can join in the conversation, and maybe you'll even win some tickets to Wednesday night's Pats game. So the Prince Albert Raiders are going to be in town for this one, the finale first half of the WHL season for the Pats. And, it should be a good one. I mean, there is a former name that could be dressing, or a former Pat C who could be dressing for the Prince Albert Raiders. Forward Malachi Martin from the Regina Pat Canadians. He was playing in Swift Current for the Raiders on Friday night. The 17-year-old could be on the visiting squad this upcoming Wednesday night. Now, if you want to win those tickets, all you have to do is text us, as I mentioned. I need some help. I need to determine what the best outdoor rink is in this city, because I have lived here for a couple of years now, but not nearly long enough to know the lay of the land when it comes to ODRs, you know what I'm saying? So tell me what the best rink is that I should strap on the skates and go check out over the holiday break, 306-936-6262 is the Prairie Land Rentals text line. That's where you can give me some input, give me some insight, and maybe Colson will actually be the one that hooks you up with tickets to the Pats game on Wednesday night. Because yes, they are coming fresh off of their teddy bear toss game. Over 2,000 teddy bears raining down to the ice this past weekend. And they didn't win that game necessarily. They lost. It was an 8-5 final to the Kelowna Rockets. And there was a lot in that game. Like, I will say, we saw a penalty shot, which you don't see every day, especially in the WHL. There was a little bit of a scrappy fight on the ice, and there was 13 goals total. So, I mean, it was definitely active for the guy who presses the air horn whenever the Pats scored. I mean, only 5 times versus the 8 for Kelowna, but you got to admit, it was a very, very exciting game. And now that final push before all the players and the coaching staff and everybody else involved with the organization takes a bit of a break, as does everybody else in the WHL. Now, that being said, Matt Paranych is the teddy bear toss goal scorer for this season. He ended up getting it in the first period. He'll be stopping by a little bit later. Pat's Chat. That comes up in the 5 o'clock hour. So we're, a little bit more than an hour away from that conversation. We'll get his perspective from the night that was. I mean, we saw Maddox Schultz also get his first WHL career goal. Not only his first, but his second as well. Multi-point night for him. Multi-point night for Liam Pugh. And the crowd was energetic. It was electric in there. You had Santa Claus in the house. Mrs. Claus was there. Yeah, kids were having a blast. So, yes. Pat's Chat, we'll be talking a little bit more about that. We'll even tee up the matchup this Wednesday night. PA's been playing well. The Prince Albert Raiders, not an easy team to skate by. And they're going to want to go out on a high note here as they head into that Christmas break. And of course, it's not just all about hockey today. We're going to have to talk a little bit of football here too. So that's why Brendan McGuire, voice of the Regina Rams, is going to be popping by to talk a little bit of football. That's going to be before 5 o'clock this afternoon. Maybe we'll hold him hostage and keep him for a little bit longer than that to talk not only Regina Rams, because there is still things that happen in the offseason, especially in youth sports. There is some stuff to talk about there, plus CFL offseason news. CFL teams obviously have a tendency to space out the news throughout the offseason. We already have the schedule, which is shocking. But now what are happening with the pending free agents? You know, you're hitting that window once we get to February. In fact, it was announced just after we hit the air here, shortly after 3 o'clock, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, 3-year contract extension with Brady Oliveira. Now, I will say that their 3 Down Nation is reporting some numbers on this. I should be more specific here. Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation is reporting some specifics. So the Bombers signed star hometown running back for $290,000 in 2026, $300K in 27 and 28. He was already the CFL's highest paid running back in 2025. So what does that mean for the pending free agents? I'm curious about that. And, maybe we can get a little bit of insight from Brendan on that, as, you have only so much money to work with. So he's going to offer some insight on that. Obviously, the Saskatchewan Roughriders as well. They announced a couple of signings today. So they've signed American defensive lineman Sonny Anderson and American defensive lineman Davin Van. So we'll get some input on that as well. It looks like, they already locked in their short yardage quarterback. They locked in starting quarterback in Trevor Harris. Jamarcus Hardrick, he's coming back for another season for sure. And now they're looking at the defensive side of the ball. So now what do we expect? Are we going to see other signings before we hit Christmas? Or are we maybe in that window where things calm down a little bit? Let him enjoy that Grey Cup victory in the Rider front office, tour around that Grey Cup trophy a bit more. I know that I was having some conversations with some staffers there, and they were putting together a plan. And the way that I pictured it when they were describing it to me is that it was sort of like one of those old school movies where you have the pins and the red thread that is connecting all of the different clues if you're trying to solve a murder mystery or something, because they have so many places in the province that obviously want to see this cup. They want to be part of the celebration, understandably so. And they want to hit as many places as possible. You also got to keep in mind the offseason is only so long. So they need to cram in as many visits as they can and be strategic about it. Not to mention, they're also going to be planning for, that extra home game next season with the schedule coming out. Obviously, we have all of those dates now with Toronto and, FIFA taking up their venue space in Toronto. So that extra home game will be happening here in Regina, which allows them to then move one of the preseason games up to Saskatoon. So a lot of moving parts there, but they are going to try to get that cup in as many places as possible. So there is no slowing down when it comes to the CFL. It might be the off season, but there's still plenty to talk about here. I'm also just looking forward to getting more information regarding this app. Stuart Johnston, he did mention that, a new app was going to be coming for the CFL finally in 2026. So that and a whole bunch more is going to be coming up. Brendan McGuire and your clutch performer is also going to be coming up here shortly. But we got to take a quick break. This is the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com. It is the Monday edition of the Sports Cage. Thanks for taking the time to join us. I'm Teagan Witko, your Monday host, joined alongside Colson Schultz, who is keeping us all tickety-boo, making sure everything's running as it should. But joining us now on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Western Pizza gift cards are a perfect stocking stuffer for the gift exchange as well. Don't forget about their catering options either. But joining us all the way from Niagara Falls, Ontario, just kicked off the World Junior Camp from Macklin, Saskatchewan. It's Cole Reschny, North Dakota Fighting Hawks player as well. Thanks so much for doing this, Cole.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's just dive right in here. I mean, growing up in Macklin, Saskatchewan, only player from Saskatchewan at camp right now. How cool is that for you?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, obviously. I mean, getting the chance to, represent Saskatchewan and obviously coming from a very small town, it's pretty special.
Well, you got a whole province backing you here. Take us through that moment. The moment you got the phone call, you were told, hey, you're invited to camp, Cole. What was that moment like?
Yeah, very special. I mean, ever since I was a young kid, growing up watching this tournament at Christmas, the best time of the year. It's something that I've dreamed of, and now that I'm kind of here and it's just my time and my age group, just getting the opportunity to come to camp and having the chance of making the team, it's extremely exciting and gonna do whatever I can to crack the squad.
Who was the first person that you told? Did you tell someone right beside you? Did you pick up the phone and call a family member? Who was the first person that found out?
Yeah, I was actually with my teammates. My teammates in North Dakota there, so it was pretty cool. They were all pumped for me, but right after that, I called my parents and let them know. I mean, a huge thanks to them for all my success, and they were pretty happy for me too.
Well, I understand that you're familiar with Keaton Verhoff, who is also invited to training camp. So that was probably a pretty special night for the two of you, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's a great player, but more importantly, a great person. We actually lived together in North Dakota there, going to school. So, it was great. We're both pumped for each other, and hopefully we can both make the team and try and win a gold medal.
This might be a historic year. I mean, if you both crack the roster, there's a real chance to have multiple players on Team Canada from North Dakota. I believe the first time since 1983. So how much pride is there in representing UND?
Yeah, there's a ton for sure. I mean, obviously I made the big decision to go there, leaving Victoria, and same with Keaton. But, they've been great to us. They've, helped us develop and made the transition to college hockey very easy on us. So, a lot of kudos to them, but, it would be very special to have, two of us make the team and, try and win a gold medal. It would be definitely a dream come true.
You talk about the transition to collegiate level hockey. You've had a pretty good start, you might say, in your freshman year, leading the team in scoring. What made that transition go so smoothly?
Yeah, I think just a lot of credit again to the coaching staff and all the people there at UND. It wasn't an easy decision by any means. Leaving Victoria, I had 2 great years there in the Western Hockey League, and I thank them a lot for all that and all the people that supported me there. But I got the opportunity to go visit North Dakota in the summer, and ultimately I made the decision to go there, and I'm very happy I did that. I started to find my stride early into the season and more, and kind of getting more comfortable. It's a lot tougher hockey, I find, but it's kind of what I need to get ready for the next level. So it's been great, and I'm very happy I made that decision.
Well, it's not too far from home, right? I mean, he could be down south in the States.
No, for sure. It's actually closer than Victoria, so it's a little bit better.
So 16 assists, most by UND freshmen before the Christmas break, since Zach Parise, believe it or not. He was just inducted into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. So what does it mean to have your name mentioned among the ranks of someone like that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's definitely an honor. I mean, I didn't know that until today, but no, it's definitely pretty cool. I mean, I don't look too much into those things, but I just try and do my thing and go out there and play.
So what have you found has been working well, either, in North Dakota or even, when you're through your first, 2 days of camp? How are you finding your stride?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, everyone here is the best of the best, so it's exciting, getting the opportunity to play with these guys, compete with them at practice, and there's still some work to do to make the team, so we're all battling, competing for a spot, but it's been great. Just being in this environment. They got us at a nice hotel here and nice facilities, so it's fun. I mean, any chance you get to come see these guys every once in a while at these events, it's always fun to hang out with all of them.
Obviously, you've evolved your game since joining the collegiate level. New environment, though, and new line mates. I mean, how do you carry over that momentum into this training camp that you've established down in college?
Yeah, again, I think it's just sticking to my game and what I do best, playing a hard 200-foot game, both sides of the puck, and just being confident. I mean, you come here as the top players on all your teams, and you're not going to be that player here all the time. You just got to play the role that they ask and do what they ask of you, and I'm going to do that to the best of my ability, and just give myself the best chance to make this team and play an important role and try and win a gold medal.
So how have things been clicking there? You feeling comfortable? You feeling 100% confident?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just 2 days in so far, 2 practices, but it's been good. Learning new systems, playing with new guys. It's been good. A lot of fun so far.
You're no stranger to donning the maple leaf on your chest, winning with, Team Canada 2025 U18, Hlinka Gretzky Cup. So how much confidence does that give you? Does that give you a little bit of a competitive edge, do you find?
Yeah, I think so. I think I see myself as a winner. I hate losing more than anything. So, just getting those opportunities to, again, wear the maple leaf, it's very special to represent your country. And then just looking at past teams, guys here that I've won with and played with, it's exciting to see those guys again and get the opportunity to try and do the same thing again. It's obviously you don't get these opportunities every day, so making the most of it is a big thing for me. So just trying to do what I can here.
So I got to ask, you're from Saskatchewan. I mean, you've been at North Dakota for a while now, obviously going to school, playing hockey down there. Did you celebrate the Ryder Grey Cup victory?
I did not celebrate it or anything, but there was talks about it with all our Canadian guys on the team. I mean, good for Saskatchewan there. It's always exciting when you can see them do good, but no parties were thrown or anything like that.
I imagine there may have been maybe 1 or 2 of your classmates, teammates who they weren't even sure who the Riders were, hey?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, it seems like you're definitely diving in there out in Niagara Falls. And how many more days of practice are you guys going to have before final cuts are made?
Yeah, so we still got about a week and a bit left. We got some practices, a few exhibition games in Kitchener and then London against the Swedes. So hopefully getting to those and we'll see what happens.
So as you get deeper into this training camp schedule and as you get closer to those exhibition games, is that when the nerves set in, or do you just try to block all of that out?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I just try to, take it day by day, focus on what's in front of me and not look too far ahead. Obviously, it's going to be nerve-wracking waiting to hear But at this moment, I just got to do what I can to, show myself and show my game and, prove the type of player I am and hopefully, give myself the best chance to make this team.
Absolutely. You been keeping any tabs on the NHL while you've been down there, or have you been a little bit preoccupied?
Definitely a little bit busier down here, but still trying to just check scores and, watch any games I can and little highlights. Yeah.
So did you hear of any trades on Friday last week?
Yeah, that was a pretty big one.
So thoughts on Quinn Hughes, if you don't mind sharing them, off to Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. A player with the skill and the work ethic, and obviously as the captain there in Vancouver, it's pretty crazy to see him get traded. But it's a business in the hockey world, and both teams had to do what was best for them. And in that case, it was him moving on, and Vancouver, receiving some really good players too. So it's exciting to see those things, and when that's going on in the NHL, shakes things up. But two great teams, great organizations, places, Minnesota and Vancouver. So it's exciting. Hopefully get the opportunity to play against those guys one day.
I mean, it'd be boring if everybody stayed put, right, Cole?
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, yeah, of course, with you being drafted by the Calgary Flames, I imagine you've been keeping tabs on them as well.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously it was pretty special for myself and my family too for me getting drafted, but no, for sure been watching along and keeping tabs on them too.
Absolutely. Well, Cole Reschny, of course, North Dakota Fighting Hawks in Niagara Falls right now at training camp for, trying to crack that World Junior Canada roster. So really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I imagine you've done quite a few interviews today, so hopefully you get to kick your feet up and actually get some rest today. I know you guys aren't on the ice, so try to get some relaxation time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, really appreciate it. Cole Reschny joining us, of course, all the way from Niagara Falls, Ontario. You know what? I think, I forgot to ask him about the Festive Feast bracket. Why is that so hard to say? Colson, I want to blame you for coming up with that
alliteration.
Name. It's the alliteration. I really wish I would have asked him that. I think we know his answers, though. I'm pretty sure he would have went with sour cabbage rolls. I would like to think. I don't know. Saskatchewan person. Although butterscotch confetti is hard to top. If you want to let us know on the Prairie Land Rentals text line, you can certainly do that. Festive Feast bracket. Sour cabbage rolls or butterscotch confetti. And then stuffing versus turkey. So take your pick. 306-936-6262. Of course, this is the Sports Cage, your Monday installment. Brought to you by Keln Solar, installing solar in residential and commercial buildings for 35 years. Local and trusted. Keln Solar. Visit kelnsolar.com. And as you are giving us your input on the Festive Feast bracket, I will get it right by the end of the show, I promise. You can also text in your favorite ODR, your favorite outdoor rink in the Regina area. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the city, but I just I need to check one out. I'd like to strap on the skates over the holiday break. Let me know what you think. If you tell me, you might win some Pats tickets for Wednesday night, their final game at home before the Christmas break. 306-936-6262. We got to take a quick break here and get to our clutch performer. So hang tight for that. This is the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com. It is your clutch performer. We got a couple clutch performers today.
A few of them.
Yeah, just a couple of them. I'm going to start off with something that happened. There was all the couches and everything were moved from the front lobby area when I got in this morning, and it took me a second to realize why, and it's because the MS Musical Christmas card wrapped up yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
It's something we do on 620 CKRM every year. We play song requests, and then you make a donation to the MS Society. I'm not sure what the total is yet. I don't think they've tallied everything up just yet, but I do want to give a shout out. Ray Allen, who does our weekends, he's out there from the front reception desk doing the show, taking your requests. We have a bunch of volunteers here picking up the phones, taking donations. So we also had a live band. That's why they moved all the couches, because they needed space for the equipment and the guitars and all that stuff. So clutch performer, the live band, the volunteers, and everybody who donated. That's one of my clutch performers. Colson, you want to go next?
It's a big grouping of one. But...
I know. I said clutch performers.
Yeah.
In plural.
This kid named Maddox Schultz got his first WHL goal, so I feel like that's a pretty good one.
Centering pass, stop, rebound, score!
only the first WHL goal, but also the second goal on Teddy Bear Toss Night.
Very important.
I kind of want to ask, because he didn't get the goal that resulted in the Teddy Bears raining down onto the ice. That was Matt Paranych, who's actually going to be in a little bit later. But I'm curious if that's what lit the fire under his belly maybe a little bit.
Dang it, I didn't get the Teddy Bear goal.
Wanted the Teddy Bear goal. That's
your first WHL goal, too. That wouldn't be too bad.
Could you imagine?
That's a lot with one puck.
Yeah, that would be one for the history books for sure. But I mean, hey, still, first and second WHL goal. That's pretty cool. And I know he's been wanting to get that monkey off of his back.
Yeah, now they're just going to come in bunches, right?
Yeah. What are you predicting? Like a hat trick on Wednesday night?
No, I don't make predictions. I just throw stuff out to stir the pot here and there. That's about it.
Are you superstitious?
Not really.
Just
in
a little
terms of
stitious?
that. No, not really in terms of predictions and stuff. No.
Okay.
I just like to throw stuff out just here and there.
It's also because, people can clip things and repost them.
Yeah. Well, I'm the one that does that, so I'm not too worried. But...
That's true. That's very true. All right. I think that's plenty. That's probably a grouping of like 30 people, clutch performers.
I got one more if you want.
Oh, yeah. Hit me. Let's go.
So, personally, I'm a huge fan of the LA Chargers social media team. And the video they posted after beating the Chiefs, I'm not going to play the audio because it's SpongeBob and it might get flagged. But it's SpongeBob with the Chiefs logo on him. And the NFL just drives right by his house, which is labeled as the playoffs, going to Cancun. I'm like, nice. Chargers social media team. If you don't follow them,
you should.
They do some good stuff. Their schedule reveal videos are usually top notch.
Yeah,
so they're good. I appreciate them.
Well, okay. One more.
All right.
Phillip Rivers.
Oh yeah.
Because, and hear me out, he didn't play a fantastic, phenomenal, earth-shattering game.
No.
But he was removed from the game for 5 seasons, learned a brand new offense, came in, he had, a week? And he did decently well.
Yeah.
He looked a little shaky.
He had them in the game to win it, right?
Against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
The second best defense in the league.
Yeah, who are a little slept on, honestly, but people know they're good still.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to have them in it to be able to win at the end at 44 after not playing for basically 5 years.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I definitely couldn't do that.
No. And let's not even go there. Phillip Rivers, he deserves to be one of our clutch performers today. It is brought to you by Nick Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey, Ferguson, Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. Call 781-1077. And I do believe we have our next guest ready to join us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. So let's just get right to it. Brendan McGuire, voice of the Regina Rams, is joining us now. Well, hi, Brendan.
I didn't come in studio, so I don't have to bring Western Pizza this time.
But are you going to give us a clutch performer? Do you have one to tack on here?
I thought, honestly, I thought your picks were pretty good. Phillip Rivers, I think, probably deserves. Well, no, of course you're going to give it to Maddox Schultz, but outside of him, Phillip Rivers is really, really good because I'm trying to think of a comparable to his situation, and I don't think that the big American network people could think of a good comparable either. I actually think that if you want to think of a similar situation, you would think about the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Kerry Joseph, who came out of retirement in 2014, because he hadn't played in 3.5 years. And I can't think of any other quarterback who has come off the couch after that much time off. It's not that uncommon for a guy who's missed half a season, maybe 1.5 years, but 4.5 years is really remarkable. So the fact that he got out there and he finished the game, I think is really remarkable, but no more remarkable than what Maddox Schultz did. So I think your choices are pretty good.
Okay, there we go. Stamp of approval from Brendan. I like it. Well, let's talk a little football, shall we? Okay. Let's talk first and foremost Saskatchewan Roughriders signing a couple American defensive linemen today. How much do you know about Sonny Anderson and Davin Van?
Very little, but I know that in order to fill out a proper training camp roster, you're going to have to find a lot of American talent. And I don't say that to belittle the Canadian talent that you have either, but you need to have a lot of depth. You just don't know what's going to happen. And let's not forget, this defensive line that the Rough Riders have, I think just one of them is on the right side of 30. if I'm not mistaken. They're aging players. It's something that I asked Coach Mace about early in the season, because let's remember, he was teammates with some of these guys and coached them and had really, really good relations with them. And I've always been curious, at what point does his relationship start to get strained with some of these veteran players? Maybe strained isn't the right word, but tested, because Father Time's undefeated, right? And as these players age out, and they're gonna, because they always do, is that going to strain the relationship that he has with these players? Only time will tell, because as we know, Coach Mace has a very special relationship with his players, particularly those on the defensive side of the football.
Well, I mean, you got to look at it this way, right? You have your short yardage quarterback returning in Tommy Stevens. You have Trevor Harris. You have DeMarcus Hardrick now re-signed, or extended. Like, what are their priorities aside from, defensive linemen? What do you think that they're going to be looking at next, Brendan?
The one thing that really jumped out at me is what they're going to do with their quarterback room next year, right? Because Trevor Harris is coming back. That's great. That's not a surprise to anybody. It was pretty clear to me at the garbage bag day at the end of the season that he had no intention of retiring. And so then what's next? Because we know Tommy Stevens is not in a developmental role. He's in the short yardage role as a third stringer. The third string role, especially with a player like him, has been so redefined in the Canadian Football League from what it used to be. In the good old days, you had your best player as a starter. You had your second best guy. He might be a journeyman, a veteran, in case he needs to come in. And then your third stringer was your project. That was somebody who's not ready yet, but the sky was the limit, and you were curious and excited to see what they could one day become. With all respect to Tommy Stevens, because he does a great job and he fills a very important role, those third down gambles used to be routine in the Canadian Football League, and they are not anymore. And I think that's a good thing, because there's some unpredictability to that play. There never used to be. But it also raises the question, where does the project fit in? And all I heard last season about Jack Cohn was how excited they were about him. And you hear that about a lot of young quarterbacks. What's the old saying? In Saskatchewan, the most popular player is the backup quarterback, because people haven't seen him play yet, and he's undefeated. But I seem to hear a little more excitement and optimism around Jack Cohn's prospects as a legit CFL quarterback one day. We know he went to a big school, Notre Dame, and that doesn't guarantee anything, but it does add a little bit of intrigue. So where does he fit in? That's what I want to know. Where does Jake Maier fit in? And I wonder if something doesn't change there, or if they come back to training camp. Does the change, if the change happens at all, does it occur now in free agency and maybe they don't bring back Jake Maier? Or is it something that occurs in training camp? Maybe they do everything they can to bring back Jake Maier, and his salary is probably going to be more than a Jack Cohn, and then that will be the battle to watch in training camp. Not who ends up as number one, not who ends up as number three, who's number two, because to have someone around as essentially your fourth quarterback for a third year in a row is something you just don't see very often in the Canadian Football League. I think we've reached the time where it's time to get on with it or move to someone else if Jack Cohn doesn't get that number two spot. Not really an exciting roster thing to watch for, but on a defending Grey Cup championship team, we'll take what we can get.
It's interesting you bring up quarterbacks, because I was thinking about this just the other day. I mean, a lot of the starting QB positions are now filled across the league, right? I mean, when you look at all of the different teams, like, there's not really a whole lot of space there. So what does that mean for a guy like Trey Ford?
That's a great question. He's going to be in very tough if he wants to continue being a quarterback in this league. A lot of speculation is out there that he's going to have to make a switch to receiver, and I don't know that that's wrong. I think a lot about Cordell Stewart, who they used to nickname Slash in the NFL. He was a great quarterback at Colorado. He went into the NFL. I think he was drafted as a quarterback, but they didn't have room for him in that position, so he had to be a receiver. Sometimes they'd line him up as a running back. His nickname was Slash. He was fun to watch. He was a great weapon, really tough for defenses to handle because you didn't know where he was going to line up or what he was going to do. And I don't know that that's what Trey Ford wants to do, but I think he's at a stage in his career where he might have to do that just to stay in the league for now. I still don't think that Edmonton put him in the best possible scenario to succeed for two reasons. Number one, they gave him an offensive coordinator who I'm led to believe is about the worst fit imaginable for a quarterback of his skill set. And I've been told that by people at 3 Down Nation, people who understand this stuff in ways that I would never understand because I haven't spent enough time around game planning or understanding offenses. And number two, what I thought was really bizarre was that when they made the decision to pull him and put in Cody Fajardo, they did it on a week that they were coming to Saskatchewan. And it just so happens that in this football game of matchups, the blueprint to beat a Corey Mace defense is to have a mobile quarterback. People forget that Trey Ford has shredded the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense, not only in the 23 season, but also in the 24 season when he's come to Mosaic Stadium. I'm pretty sure his record, I think he's 2 for 2 in this park. And Coach Mace's defense had a really tough time corralling him. So I thought it was a very bizarre decision to make the switch when they did. Some will scoff at that notion because the Elks looked a lot better down the stretch with Cody Fajardo, but they still didn't get as far as they had to get. So it makes you wonder, do you want to spend all this time with this journeyman quarterback who's approaching his mid-30s or somebody who has the upside of a Trey Ford? But to answer your question, I think if he's going to stick around in the Canadian Football League for now, he's probably going to have to do a position change. And that's not unusual for players like him. We see that in the NFL a lot. We've seen it up here. You reach a point where if you're going to stick around, you're just going to have to make that change. And I'll just add one more thing to this point. Coming out of the pandemic, the CFL was really thin on quarterback talent. And I think what has happened since then is we've seen new faces emerge, which is a good thing. There have been an awful lot of man games lost due to injury, which is not a good thing. I think if they made some changes to the ratio, that would fix it, but that's a whole other discussion. But because so many players have been out and have been injured, that has created opportunities for other faces to emerge. Like Nick Arbuckle, until Chad Kelly went down, was nothing more than the ultimate journeyman. Even when they won that Grey Cup, my opinion of Nick Arbuckle and a lot of other football people's was not very high. But after what he did with the Argos in the 25 season, how can you not be excited about him being either the best backup in the league or one of the best backups we've ever seen with his credentials, or even a legit starting quarterback? Drew Brown in Ottawa, he just couldn't stay healthy. But I think we're at a point where Dave Naylor hit the nail on the head a year ago that we had never been in a position where we had so many backup quarterbacks who had won so many games in the CFL. And I think we're now at a point, year 5 coming out of the pandemic, where I don't want to say an embarrassment of riches, but we're getting very close to that in the CFL. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league, proving and also putting pressure on teams to get one. Because if you don't have a top flight quarterback in this league now, you will not win because there's so many of them out there. And to beat one, you have to have one.
So shifting a little bit now to, let's say, running backs, Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I'm sure that you saw they announced today that they have Brady Oliveira coming back, a 3-year contract extension through the 28th season. Now, 3 Down Nation, Justin Dunk's reporting, $290,000 in 2026 and then $300K in 27-28. He was already the highest paid running back, right? So what does that mean for Winnipeg's salary cap picture? In your brain, how does this all work out when it comes to the remainder of these roster decisions? And let's be honest, I mean, Winnipeg is a team, and I'm not just saying this because I'm from Saskatchewan, but they are a team who is starting to get a little bit older.
Yeah, you could have said that 2 years ago. I mean, really, their foundation was built largely around the trio on defense. They had Jackson Jeffcoat, Adam Bighill, and Willie Jefferson. Bighill was starting to age out before their run had ended. Jeffcoat probably could have kept playing, but he retired. And Jefferson has been aging out. He's still a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's one of my favorite players just to watch. I don't even think he gets the credit that he deserves even today. I think he's been shortchanged on some of the awards. But it's a big problem for them because they've got Zach Collaros, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. They've got Stanley Bryant, who will be one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the league again. And then you've got Brady Oliveira. So you're right. They have a small group of players who are eating up a lot of their cap space. Having said that, because some of those other players have aged out, I think that probably helps them balance it out a little bit. Winnipeg is going to have a great run game again. But it's interesting how they've built this train of Canadian running backs. You had Andrew Harris, and then they transitioned so well to Brady Oliveira. And Matthew Peterson is something else who's backing up Brady Oliveira, another Canadian running back who played with the University of Alberta Golden Bears. So that has not been a position of strength for Canadians around the CFL. So I wonder if just the fact they're able to break the ratio at that position is giving them flexibility in other areas where they can sign Americans who aren't as expensive. The one person who I feel really bad for in all of this is AJ Ouellette, because he came in studio right where you're sitting the day that he signed, and he and I did the SportsCage that day, and he revealed to me that he actually has some Canadian ancestors. And when you define who's Canadian, who's not Canadian, they're very loosey-goosey with that. Like there are players who get counted as Canadians because their mom's second cousin, maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic there, but they find loopholes to qualify as a Canadian. And I wonder if AJ shouldn't have qualified as a Canadian. He says when they thought about it or when it was brought up, he'd already played a game in the CFL as an American. And once you've done that, they will not reopen the eligibility question. And I think to myself, how much extra money and contract could AJ Ouellette get if he counted as a Canadian like Brady Oliveira does?
That's a fair point. Too bad you can't turn back time, right? So let's talk about this other big signing that we saw last week, Bo Levi Mitchell. He talked a lot about 1 year at a time. Then he signs a 2-year contract. What do you make of that mindset?
Well, I just think he's at the point in his career where he has to take it 1 year at a time because he's approaching his late 30s. And I'm trying to remember if he was born in 90 or 91. I want to say I think he's 34, maybe 35 at this point. But I remember when Trevor Harris came to the Riders, the first thing that he said was he was going to play till he was 45. He was a big believer in all those wacko TB12 methods that Tom Brady threw out there. And we joked that it was going to be the TH7 method. And he looked really, really good that first year. But it was after, I think, week 6 when he suffered that brutal injury playing against Calgary when he took off running, and there was really nothing he could have done to avoid it. A young player would have suffered that injury just as badly. But there were a lot of question marks as to whether or not we were going to see him again after the 23 season because he was going to be 38 and blah, blah, blah. When he came back after training camp, he said, we'll take it year by year. So I think that just really opened his eyes to the fact that it can be taken from you in an instant. Now, Bo Levi Mitchell has had some pretty serious injuries too, and there were many who thought that his career was maybe done when he was leaving the Calgary Stampeders, or we were never going to see the same old Bo again. And in fact, his first year with the Ticats, he was not overly impressive. And in fact, at the end of the season, he spent a lot of time on the bench. It took a while with Scott Milanovich being installed as the head coach for him to get back to the level that he's at. So I would suggest that that's just a product of him seeing it through the eyes of reality. He understands that he could have another injury and it could be all over in an instant. He's just taking it year by year. But I suspect as long as he has his health, he'll keep playing. And it's not a bad paycheck either. People like to joke and mock that CFL players don't get paid much. And that's true. They're badly underpaid. I think all of them are. But relatively speaking, it's not a bad payday, especially if you're a starting quarterback like Bo Levi Mitchell is.
So, week ago today, CFL schedule comes out. What stood out to you? Anything substantial?
Not really. I always just check to see if there's any changes to any of the rivalry games. They really didn't do anything like that. First of all, I thought the schedule reveals were pretty good. I thought the Winnipeg Blue Bombers probably did a better job than anybody with their social media videos. John Hodge, I thought, did a really, really good piece ranking them and dumping all over the teams like the Argos, who do such a pitiful job with their own social media, and they really have no excuse to do that. I noticed they're trying to turn the Stampede Bowl into something. I thought that the game, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Riders are going to play on Thanksgiving Monday. And that's not something that we're used to seeing. And they're going to play in Montreal. And that's actually a really big event in Montreal. They get great crowds. It's very noisy. And I think the fact that the Rough Riders are now going to be a part of that is really exciting. And the fact that Montreal must have wanted the Rough Riders to be a part of it is exciting. And I wonder if TSN wanted to make the Rough Riders a part of it because it's going to be better ratings. But is that going to be part of a tradition where the Rough Riders are going to play in that game? Only time will tell. But I think it's a lot more exciting to see them playing in Montreal for that game than any other matchup they could have had or any other occasion where they go to Montreal late in the season.
Well, and they have that, I believe it is the Monday that you're talking about, but it's a 4-game slate. So you got Toronto, the Labor Day Classic rematches. Oh, yeah. So this is the Banjo Bowl weekend. But is that the first time they've had a back-to-back, like a quadruple header in the CFL? Is that a Stuart Johnston thing, or am I misremembering?
I didn't even see that. Which day are they doing the quadruple header? Are they doing that on the Banjo Bowl weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
September 25th.
I'm okay. I'm glad that you brought that up, Teagan, because that's something I actually have wanted to talk about for a while, which is logistics are one thing, and what the final end game should be are completely another. And I think the biggest counterpunch that the CFL could come up with to generating more than 1% of what the NFL is, to try to get to like 3% or 5% of what the NFL is to try to copy them a little bit when it comes to creating a smorgasbord of games happening. And I'll give you an example. If we could somehow get to 12 franchises in this league, they can all be in Canada. You have one in Halifax, one in Quebec City, one in Southern Ontario, probably London. We'll worry about logistics for another day. But the NFL has Monday nights and Thursday nights. The CFL can keep Friday nights. If you have that amount of teams, you could create a scenario where at the noon Saturday slot, you could have 2 CFL games, and you could find one really good U Sport game to put in there so that you've got 3 games happening at once. And then do the same thing for the late afternoon slot and then the Saturday night primetime slot. It's like in the NFL, they have Sundays, the CFL has Saturdays. So I think the idea of playing around a little bit with a whole bunch of games happening is a great idea. And I think trying to stagger the start times so that a lot of them are at the same time isn't a bad idea either, because that used to be frowned upon because you'd have to miss one game while you're watching the other. And we have learned that that has not been a problem at all for the National Football League. They sometimes have as many as 9 games happening at once. So it's worked pretty well for them. So if the CFL could create more of a multi-game viewing experience happening at once, it might help with getting the gamblers interested and with getting the Red Zone TV package cranked up too. That's another thing. I think that would add to the experience. And in fact, the simple fact that the NFL is often having 2 games happening simultaneously on Monday nights should tell you something right there. These are experts who are watching this all the time, and they're seeing that it has a little extra juice if people can tune in and know that they'll have 2 games to flip back and forth to.
Yeah. Just commenting on the quadruple header real quick. The last time we had one was in 95 when we had more than 8 or 9 teams because of the U.S. expansion. But yeah, even this
13
year...
teams, I remember it like yesterday. I dream about it all the time.
I know, Brendan. That's why I brought it up for you. But even last week, this year, the week 21, the Riders and Elks game starts at the same time as Ottawa and Hamilton. So even this year, they've got 2 games that kick off at the same time. So they're even starting to experiment with that this year.
I think that's a fantastic idea. And honest to goodness, my understanding is the NFL is a $24 billion business right now, annually. And the CFL is a business, according to John Hodge of 3 Down Nation, that is between $200 and $300 million. So if I'm assuming it's around 240, it's about 1% of what the NFL is. And we have 10% of the population of the United States. CFL doesn't need to be 10% of what the NFL is. It'd be fantastic if they could be like 3 to 5% of what the NFL is. And I think playing around with those ideas might show them some things. But I think that's the biggest challenge right now. They're just lacking in inventory. As a diehard fan, I love the fact that in the summer, they'll have a game Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. I don't have much else going on. I'm just rocking my little girls to sleep, and I'll just watch the games on my phone. But that's not going to pull in a lot of the mainstream viewers. I think that they need to focus on getting people in the habit of, or Canadians in the habit of, in the fall, especially in September and early October, what Canadians do on Saturdays before hockey season gets cranked up is they watch Canadian football. And if you can add those franchises in those regions that are not heavily engaged right now and sprinkle in really prime time, be picky about the prime time university games that you add in, because there's some really good games there. That would be a way to touch every region and make it a habit for Canadians to do on their Saturday afternoons.
They also will have, I believe, 13 cities that will be hosting a CFL game in a single season, because they have a bunch of those preseason games moving off site and with FIFA. And I mean, like, there's the game up in Saskatoon that we'll see in the preseason for the Riders. So it's an exciting schedule, in my opinion. And I never thought I'd say that before. The schedule is exciting. that's such a nerd thing to say. You just need to get a Grey Cup played in
the Maritimes. When they get a Grey Cup played in the Maritimes, that'll be really exciting. We're not there yet, though.
Write a letter. You got Stuart Johnston's email, right?
He doesn't respond to any of them.
Me neither. It's fine. Brendan McGuire, voice of the University of Regina Rams. I'm being told that we need to take a quick break here, though, but I really appreciate the chat.
Thanks, Teagan.
All right. Thanks so much. Brendan McGuire. And yes, we are going to take a quick break here. We still have the sports ticker to come, so hang tight for that. This is the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com. Well, you just heard us talking about it with Brendan McGuire. Saskatchewan Roughriders signed 2 American defensive linemen, just announced this morning, Sonny Anderson and Davin Van. The Regina Pats have traded away Julian Mays to the Calgary Hitmen in exchange for 2 third-round picks, one in 27, one in 28. In the NHL, 2 Canadian teams on the ice. You got the Sens in Winnipeg to take on the Jets at 6:30, and the NFL Monday Nighter, Miami Dolphins in Pittsburgh taking on the Steelers, 7:15. NBA, Raptors traveling to Miami to take on the Heat. Also, I just wanted to toss this in here real quick. John Cena, the record-breaking 17-time WWE World Champion, wrestled in his final match last year and lost. Now, he said his farewells over the weekend. I don't understand wrestling, but I'm told this is a pretty big deal. I know who John Cena is. I've seen enough movies. Either way, SportsCage.com poll. Do you think the NHL will play in the Olympics given the delays with construction? You can vote. SportsCage.com. That is the sports ticker. It's brought to you by Extreme Hockey. Yes, thank you for joining myself and Colson for the Monday edition of the Sports Cage. I'm your Monday host, Teagan Witko. Barney back in after today. And you know what? Doesn't sound like we're going to be able to have Darian Durant on the show today. Normally, this is the time where we would have him jump on with us. And it is brought to you by Campbell's Safety Consulting. Harassment in the workplace problems. Most companies don't handle it correctly. Do you know what to do? Call Campbell Safety Consulting. So you know what? We're going to go rogue here. We're going to have a little bit of fun with this. First and foremost, I do want to mention we are giving away those Regina Pats tickets. Pats chat still to come a little bit later on this hour. We're going to rerun our conversation with Cole Reschny of Macklin, Saskatchewan, who is in Niagara Falls, Ontario at Team Canada's World Junior Training Camp. So if you missed it earlier on the show, we still have it coming up for you before 6 o'clock. And of course, all of our guests join us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Gift cards for Western Pizza, pretty good stocking stuffer, if I do say so myself. Also great for a gift exchange when you have no idea what the heck to buy anybody. And don't forget about their catering options as well. Those Pats tickets that we're giving away on the text line, by the way, I just want you to tell me best ODR in the city. Just let me know where I should strap on the skates, blow off some steam during the holiday break. Let me know. Prairie Land Rentals text line is 306-936-6262. So stepping in for Darian Durant, we just had him on the phone, but I did not get to nearly enough of what I wanted to talk about with voice of the University of Regina Rams, Brendan McGuire. You're not getting out of here that easy, buddy.
I've always wanted to know what it would be like to be Darian Durant's backup, so I'm excited to see this. And you could just ask me, hey, Brendan, what would Darian say about this?
Oh, that's a dangerous road to walk down, but I kind of like this game.
Put words in his mouth? No, I don't want to do that. I know he was really big. I was around the Riders in 2006 and 2007 every day, and that was when he was an absolute nobody. and was on the practice squad. And he loves the Tampa Bay Rays. He always had the Tampa Bay Rays, the old school logo. That's it. So if you want to ask him about baseball, that's probably still his team.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because when they plummet to the bottom of the standings, I can make fun of them for it. That's great.
That's right. You can.
Okay, so let's start off here. I got to ask you this one, because it's our, and you're going to have to jump in on this one probably, Colson. It's the Festive Feast bracket. I don't know if you heard us talking about this earlier, but this is very important, Brendan. We need to start with this. Seed number 2, sour cabbage rolls versus butterscotch confetti. What's your pick?
I'd take the cabbage rolls.
The sour cabbage rolls.
The sour cabbage rolls. I would do it.
Okay. So mark one
Butterscotch,
down.
you get too full. That'll get you too full way too fast.
I mean,
you got to pace yourself.
It's so good, Brendan. So good. Okay,
I
here's the other one.
The cabbage roll.
Stuffing or turkey? Number 4 seed versus number 5 seed.
Stuffing for sure.
Okay, we got another one. Team stuffing. I like this. If you want to join in, by the way, if anybody's listening and they want their votes tallied, you can text us, Prairie Land Rentals text line 306-936-6262, or you can vote on Twitter. Do we know who's in the lead at this point, Colson, or are we still tallying up?
It's a little too close for me to call right now without the final math.
Okay, we got a tight one here. I like that. Well, people are going to be voting through the rest of the day.
I had to go with the stuffing because I snack on it. Like I usually have like 3 or 4 helpings when we're having it for supper. So
stovetop or homemade?
Stovetop.
Yeah, Brendan knows what's up. See, we're already best friends. This is great. Let's talk about the University of Regina Rams here a little bit, because we had you on for a full conversation, and not once did I bring it up other than to mention that you are the voice for the team on 620 CKRM. So what are you looking at in this offseason, particularly when it comes to those players who are going to be moving on in their football careers?
Well, I think they're going to have, of those all-stars, like they had 11 all-stars, vast majority of them are eligible to come back. I think they're only losing 2 out of the 11. I'll be talking about it with Coach McConkey later this week. But I think that the players who come back will have lots of star power. Like some years you might lose your starting quarterback or your star defensive back or whoever. They're losing some really good players. I think of Chopper Hippie, the linebacker. They lose Riley Schick, the center. That's always a hard position to replace on any roster. And they lose some heart and soul guys like Emmett Stedman, Ryland Sokol. But for the most part, most of their star power is coming back. I don't think that they are going to have any kind of drop off that way. My biggest concern would be, can they replace the heart and soul guys that they lost, the foundation of their team? Because a lot of those players were clutch when they needed them, especially Stedman and Sokol, those 2 receivers in the playoffs, and gave them a fighting chance. To me, it is just unbelievable that they almost pulled that off in Saskatoon in the Hardy Cup without Marshall Erickson. And then, of course, the big star is number 35. The CKRM, and I give Harvard a lot of credit, sponsored the MVP award for the Rams. So I got to go down, I got to present the MVP award to Marshall, and he came up on crutches. Seems like there's a curse with that. It's kind of like the Sports Illustrated cover curse, because they would go on the cover and then they'd get injured or they would lose or something bad would happen. Well, last year, Jackson Sombach won the award and his arm was in a sling. This year, it was Marshall Erickson, and he was on crutches. But all he could talk about was how excited he is for 2026. And I think if there's one thing that I've learned about Marshall, and I've only talked to him a few times, it's that he is not interested in personal accolades. It really is about the team with him. And I know that sounds really cliche. I wouldn't say that about every athlete. I've covered lots of athletes who are thinking about something else, their draft status, what awards they can get, what comes next. And often players start thinking about what's next after, and it kind of ruins what they're doing right now. I was the voice of the Estevan Bruins in the early 2000s and always wanted to work in the Western Hockey League. That was always my goal. Then eventually I got hired not to work in the Western Hockey League, but in the Ontario Hockey League. So I went out east and I worked with the Windsor Spitfires. And I actually learned pretty quickly how much I, in many ways, enjoyed the experience before than actually working in the OHL. And the reason being is because a lot of players in the SJHL, they kind of know that, yeah, I'm maybe going to get a scholarship, or I'm going to do this, going to do that. But this is kind of the end of the road for me. This is my NHL right here. And that made it a lot of fun. Whereas in the OHL, a lot of those players had agents and they were thinking about where they're going to go in the draft, or do they need to get traded to help their draft stock. They're not really thinking about what's happening here and now. And I think the fact they have a player like Marshall Eriksson, who seems to be very grounded, it's hard to imagine they're going to have a bigger leader than him going into the 26th season, provided he can be fully healthy. Another thing to consider with the Rams is their quarterback. Owen Sieben was the rookie of the year in 23, and he only played part of the season. He was concussed in the first half of the first game of 24 and never got to play again. And it was early in this past season, I was asking some people around Canada West about Manitoba's star quarterback, Jackson Tuchinski, because he was the reigning player of the year, and he's worth the price of admission. He's really fun to watch and very mobile. He's a star point guard on their basketball team. But anyways, one of the scouts said, he reminds me a lot of Owen Sieben. And I said, well, I don't know what to say to that, because I really hadn't seen Owen play much because he had been backup. And he said, oh, he's special. And late in the season, when you saw him get more reps, it was the third game that he was in. The first week, he had half the first team reps. We went into Edmonton. They played Alberta. He really is worth the price of admission, Teagan, because the plays are so unpredictable with him. He rolls out of the pocket, he scrambles around, and he just fires it up for his receiver to go get it. Like Christian Katendi, the big, stout running back, who's not really a receiver, he just happened to be open 15 yards downfield, and it was kind of like he was surprised, like, okay, I guess I have to catch this. And he was in open space. So that's what has me, I'm being a little bit long-winded here, but that's what has me excited about the Regina Rams going forward. The one struggle they might have, or the one challenge, is that Canada West has not been a particularly rich conference for other quarterbacks. And I think that's changing, because UBC's guy was a first year. He's going to be a lot better this year. Calgary has a guy who came from Florida. Henry Burris sent him up from the school that he's coaching. He's got a cannon for an arm, but you could tell it was taking him a while to adjust to the 3-down game and the wider field. So he should be a lot better for Calgary next year. Manitoba's going to need a new quarterback, but I think overall the Rams are going to be better than they were last year, but they're also going into a conference full of teams that were better than they were last year.
Well, we obviously have to talk about the rivals. U of S Huskies. What are you seeing there? Are they going to be in a similar position next season as they were this season? I mean, they made it to the Vanier Cup. They got some good pieces.
Yeah, when I think about what the Huskies are as a program, they remind me a lot of what the Atlanta Braves were for so many years and are kind of trying to get back to being. The Atlanta Braves only won the one World Series in the 90s, but they won 13 straight division titles. And so often we get caught up on defining programs, organizations on, well, how many championships do you have, right? We've been talking a lot about how the Rough Riders are now at 5 championships, and often that's the benchmark. Well, the Florida Marlins, I guess they're called the Miami Marlins now, have been in existence for over 30 years, and they won 2 World Series. And for the longest time, the Braves had only won 1. Well, the Marlins have never won a division, and have usually, I think they've had maybe 4 winning seasons, their 30-some years. The 2 championships they won were because one year they went on a huge spending spree, and then because that didn't work economically, they auctioned off all their players and got a whole bunch of prospects from it. That 5-6 years later, they won another one. But they have not been a good organization. And just because they had 2 championships for the longest time and the Braves only had 1, to me does not mean that the Marlins were a better program. And that applies to what the U of S Huskies are. They have not won a national championship since 98, but they've probably, and I'm embarrassed I don't know this, they've probably won more games other than maybe Laval throughout all of Canada in that time. So if they're not the best program, they're definitely top 3 in the country. And there's not a lot of up and down with them. They're pretty steady, and I think that will continue. That said, they lost their quarterback this year, and we just hope that his health can recover, and playing football is secondary. And assuming that he is not able to play, it's going to take a while for that offense to really get in motion again. that is a huge thing to come back from. And they're going to have to think about this all off season, ponder everything that just happened, because when it happened, nobody had time to think about it. It was just react in the moment. So I think they're going to continue to be what they've always been, which is steady and consistent. I don't know they're going to be as dominant. They're probably going to take a step back because they did lose. Not only are they without their star quarterback, who's probably the best quarterback in Canada West, they're without Daniel Weeb, the best receiver in the conference, who's probably going to be on the practice roster of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And they're without the best linebacker in the conference in Seth Hundeby, who's probably going to be on the active roster of the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 26. So based on that, I think the Huskies will still be really good in the conversation, but I think the gap will have narrowed between the Rams and the Huskies, definitely going into 26.
Well, at least Hundeby and Weeb are still going to be in the province. That's something positive, right? Beyond that, I don't know how much you want to talk more about this schedule here, but Colson found us an interesting little nugget here in terms of the CFL schedule and how much space there are for breaks, how much rest time there is for each team. So I'll let him throw it up on the, if you're watching the stream at sportscage.com.
Yeah, so there's a guy I follow. Oh, if I hit the right one, hold on. A guy I follow who does CFL stats and stuff. And he made this graphic that breaks down the days of rest between games for each team and then when their buys are. And so if I can zoom it in a little bit, that would probably help some. But basically, I look at, for instance, Ottawa's schedule, and they have a ton of days off, those big gray blocks. And so I'm like, that looks really favorable for them as compared to I think it's Edmonton has 3, BC has 3, and Calgary has 3 4-day stretches between games. And those are going to be rough. And then you look at Winnipeg, the start of their year, short week, long week, short week. And it's just kind of all over the place this year.
If you could leave that graphic up for a second, one thing that I'm noticing here, guys, that's jumping out at me is those yellow ones, 5 and 4. I just noticed, and this is the first time I've seen this graphic. I feel like the Riders, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those with the Riders. And then I see Calgary with 5 of those. So it's really the red one, was that pink or red, whatever it is, where it's 4 days between games. I think the team that really gets the shaft here, it looks to me like, is BC, because it looks like they've got 6 instances where it's 5 days or 4 days. That's a third of their season.
Yeah, and even the long stretches over buys and stuff, like their longest break is 12 days, whereas Montreal has a 14. Saskatchewan, I think, has a 12 only, but we also have the first week bye, so that messes with things. So, like,
it seems like so often. Yeah, it seems like the Eastern teams, and I hate to complain about the West to the East, but it seems like the Eastern teams get less of that. Like, was it last year or the year before? There were 6 games total where teams had like 4 or 5 days between. The instance was you had a short week of 4 or 5 days and the other team was coming off a bye week. That happened 6 times in the 24 season. 3 times it happened to the Rough Riders. So I don't know. They'll make a lot of excuses for the fact that there's 9 teams and it's a lot tougher to build a schedule when you have an odd number of teams instead of even number of teams. I think they could do a lot better than this.
Well, and we all know they had to build this schedule super early. I mean, my understanding is teams actually had this schedule before the Grey Cup with the FIFA planning and everything that comes along with that. So maybe that has some sort of effect on BC's schedule, at least in my brain, because they are going to be playing a couple of home games off-site elsewhere in British Columbia, right?
And they also have the farthest to travel no matter what, right? Because it's BC, right? Like, yeah, Montreal has the distance to travel too, but they've got their division much closer to them because even BC to Vancouver to Winnipeg's a decent distance. So,
yeah, it's always going to be that for the West Coast teams. It's that way in other sports. In fact, I'm a big Vancouver Canuck fan, even though I haven't been paying that much attention.
Oh, I'm so sorry, buddy.
Well, I've been getting peppered with all these questions. Well, how come nobody wants to stay with the Canucks? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't been paying attention, but I think about it, and they play on the West Coast, and because they play so far north, I know that's always a problem. Like Vancouver really was vocal about wanting Seattle to have an NHL team, and you don't normally hear that. Teams usually want to have their own territories far out, but I think it's because they have to travel so far for any of their games that they just want to have a rival where fans can come from their stadium and you can actually do a day trip and come home, sleep in your own bed. But yeah, no, that's you know what? It's another sign that the league really needs to prioritize getting a 10th franchise, because that would make a lot of that scheduling so much easier. And the scheduling is just very scattered, especially in the summer, which I think is a big problem as well, because you have games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So piecing that all together is really tough. So my idea of just focusing on Friday nights and Saturdays, I think would help a lot with that, even if you don't have an even number of teams. But it creates all kinds of problems. And it's not just, some players will say, or pundits criticized McLeod Bethel Thompson a couple years ago, maybe it was even last year, when he was whining about the schedule and said, well, it's the same for all the teams. Yeah, it is the same for all the teams almost, but that doesn't make it right. Like in the NFL, it's bad enough that they have Thursday night football, but you're only doing it usually a couple times a year, and that doesn't mean it's right either. If teams are having to do it 5, 6, BC has to have a short week of 4 or 5 days, 6 times a season. That's a third of their season. And then you're piling on 3 bye weeks. And I don't think that's good either. The players aren't paid for those bye weeks, so they've got to stick around. They've got to pay for residence, whatever. And it doesn't help with football either, because the offenses have a tough time staying crisp. We've seen how Trevor Harris has looked I should say the Rough Rider offense has looked in the first half of games coming out of a bye week, including the Western Final, and it has not been good. It's taken a while for them to get their crispness back. So we need to get to a point where you have one bye week. We've got the teams playing on the same day or 2 days every week, and that will make the on-field product better and more watchable for everybody. But that really looked like a big, chicken salad of schedule where teams are having to play with 4 or 5 days in between, and that's not good for anybody.
Well, and let's be honest, last year, they had struggles coming off their bye weeks, but the Riders might have had the best schedule in the league. I mean, bye weeks were spaced out perfectly. They didn't have a whole bunch of those short rest weeks. And even if it is impacting, a Grey Cup winning team, then maybe something needs to be fixed. I sense that Brendan McGuire is going after Stewie J's job here, or at least the schedule maker's job.
I don't think I have the qualifications, but I don't think I could be worse than some of the schedule makers. They probably just use that automated system like Major League Baseball does anyways.
They're using AI, just plunking it into a system, figuring it out as they go. Do you want to talk a little bit of NFL before I let you go?
Yeah, sure. I'm a big Denver fan, and I have to confess, I was excited to watch the Denver-Green Bay game yesterday. December's kind of my month to watch NFL because I get very footballed out with all the CFL stuff and Canada West stuff. So in December, I get a little breather, and then I start to think about that and the Pats, of course. And so I'm all excited to finally sit down and watch Denver because I haven't watched them all year. But then Farhan Lalji had a really good pregame report on that Seattle-Indianapolis game. And all of a sudden, I didn't care about the Denver game. I wanted to watch Seattle and Indy, but I just take what the cable gods give me, and I didn't have that game. But no, fascinating week in the NFL and some great matchups for sure.
I will be honest, watching the Chiefs be eliminated from playoff contention was very sweet. I love that. Round of applause, please. Thank you, Colson. But what I am a little bit concerned about here, and I'm interested to get your take on this if you've had a chance to follow along with Joe Burrow and what he has been saying to media. Obviously, they're out of the playoffs this season, and it doesn't look good. Reading between the lines, based on him telling media that he's not really having fun anymore and he needs to have fun, or what's the point? Do you foresee a shakeup in Cincy at the QB position?
That's a great question. The Bengals are famous for this, for players being all excited, being all keener, coming in, looking good, lifting them up and making them better, and then them just getting tired of the Bengals. We saw it with Corey Dillon when he was a stud running back in the day. Then it was Carson Palmer for a long time. When Joe Burrow took the Bengals to the Super Bowl, that was 21 season, I guess early calendar 22 in Los Angeles. I listened to a podcast with Carson Palmer on there, and they asked him, hey, what do you think of Joe Burrow? Do you think that he could finally be the guy to do it for Cincinnati? And he said, oh, he's an amazing talent. But does anybody really believe that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do what it takes to get the players around him and resources around him to actually keep him happy and win a championship? I would love to find those quotes, but he said something like that. I mean, those probably weren't his exact words. I'm paraphrasing, but we're seeing it. It's like the same song's second verse. They don't have a good O-line. They do have good receivers, but they're lacking in so many other areas. He's constantly getting injured, and he's just not having a lot of fun, and that's going to happen eventually. I'm not saying it's all the Bengals' fault. Sometimes that just happens. That's football. But the difference between Burrow and Mahomes is that if Patrick Mahomes' career ends tomorrow, you'd say, gee, that's too bad. But you can't say that they wasted his best years with all that hardware that they've won, okay? You could say that with Joe Burrow, because health-wise, it's not going to get any easier from him. So often players in their 20s think that, oh, this is great, the sky's the limit. And, Dan Marino, his second year, he went to the Super Bowl, never got back, because it gets harder and harder as you get older. So Joe Burrow, early in his career, took the Bengals to a Super Bowl against the Rams, probably thought he'd get back many times. And now he's not so sure about that. And he's not having a lot of fun. And I wouldn't blame it on the organization if we hadn't seen this happen so many times before with the Bengals.
Yeah, I know. This conversation hurts me. So let's talk about someone else. I'm a Bengals fan. How about Josh Allen?
My sympathies. Yeah, well, Buffalo has always been kind of my number two behind Denver, largely because I feel like, people say it's Green Bay. I kind of got tired of hearing about Green Bay. I like the Packers too. And yes, they are the Saskatchewan Roughriders of the NFL with all the parallels. But Buffalo, you really do feel like in a lot of ways they're Canada's team. You know what? If Buffalo having a strong franchise is the greatest thing for the Canadian Football League, because it makes the NFL think that, they have Canada, that's their territory, and we have no interest in going into Canada. Even though Toronto will never accept the Buffalo Bills as their team because they look down on Buffalo, but that's a whole other discussion. I do worry that that their window is going to start to close soon with Josh Allen just because of his mobility. But again, he'll continue to mature as a passer, and he'll probably be good for a long time yet. I was absolutely rooting for them in that game in New England. I would love to see them win their 6th division title. I know they're a game back, and as it stands right now, they do not have the tiebreaker, but if New England loses to another divisional rival, they might get the tiebreaker. So it's going to be a really exciting finish right to the end. And it actually makes me think, and I hate to always bring the CFL into the discussion all the time, but because you have so many tight division races and these divisions only have 4 teams in them, if we could get more teams in the CFL, I just think you'd have more playoff combinations like we're watching in the NFL right now. This really is a fun time of the year. The last 3 weeks of the season are just the best because you don't know who's going to finish where, and you're thinking about this combination and this tiebreaker. And I'm really excited about the Buffalo Bills at this point. I think that they're peaking at the right time, and just watch and see what happens with New England, because sometimes that big game loss can kick you out at the knees and take the wind out of your sails. And I'm really curious to see how New England bounces back from this. I suspect you will not see them roll through these last 3 weeks. I think they're going to stub their toe again before it's over.
Well, it's the most wonderful time of the year. You said it, Brendan. It's the last 3 weeks of the NFL regular season. I cannot wait for playoffs. And you're going to be in hosting the Cage on Friday, right?
Wait till you see my wardrobe. I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be. You'll have to tune in to check it out. But I've been working on it the last 2 weeks.
Okay, this I'm excited for. Well, until Friday, Brendan McGuire, voice of the University of Regina Rams, appreciate your time. And thank you for filling in for Darian Durant, by the way. I'll let him know to send you a bill.
Thanks, Teagan, and I'm sorry for the pick sixes.
Thank you so much. Brendan McGuire, our guest, of course. It is brought to you by Campbell's Safety Consulting. Does your workplace have proper safety program? If not, call Campbell's Safety Construction. Now, we are going to take a quick break because you know what? We still have Pat's Chat on the horizon, so we have our next guest standing by. Feel free, as always, join us on that Prairie Land Rentals text line at 306-936-6262. Actually, Colson, should we... we'll do Sprinkle of the Day after this. We still have that coming up, of course. This is the Monday Sports Cage, brought to you by Keln Solar. 35 years of experience moving water from a dugout or well without electricity. Visit kelnsolar.com to find out more for your livestock operation. This is the Sports Cage, the home of local sports on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com. The Saskatchewan Roughriders have signed a pair of American defensive linemen, Sonny Anderson and Davin Van. The Regina Pats, they have traded forward Julian Mays to the Calgary Hitmen in exchange for 2 third-round picks, one in 27, one in 28. In the NHL, 2 Canadian teams on the ice, and they face each other. It's the Sens taking on the Jets in Winnipeg. NFL Monday Nighter, Miami Dolphins travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. In the NBA, the Raptors taking on the Miami Heat. 6:30 tip-off. And the SportsCage.com poll. Do you think the NHL will play in the Olympics given the delays with rink construction? Let us know. That is your sports ticker for Steelcraft Doors. Still to come, Patch Chat. Hang tight. Oh, actually, never mind. I was just reminded we have something else to do. We like to call this Sprinkle of the Day. It's brought to you by Sports Select. So if you want to get in on more of the sports action, it's easy as going to sportselect.com. Make your picks. Then you go to your local lotto spot retailer. You print off your ticket, and then boom, it's done. It's taken care of for you. You can go old school and fill it out with pen and paper. But you know what? This is also easier. Every single bet, 100% legal, with a chance of winning cash in hand. Sports Select. When you're ready to play, bet on the original. And I know I had a little bit of fun with that last night. There was so much football on yesterday. My goodness. I won nothing, but that's fine. I had a lot of fun with it. That's all that counts. At the end of the day, if you want to go to sportselect.com, let's see what the Monday Nighter looks like for this evening. You can also place bets on futures, by the way. So if you wanted to check that out, you can, see if you want to throw some money down on the Stanley Cup final, Super Bowl, NBA, NCAA, soccer, NASCAR, and more. Let's see here. We got the Dolphins and Steelers. Ooh. Over under 45.5 or 42.5. Apparently I can't read. Thank you, Colson. You know what? I think I might want to look at the NHL. Do you mind if you're watching the stream, you can follow along with me. You got the Ducks and Rangers. You know what? That money line, I don't know, or pro line, I should say. Over under 6 on that one. I might. Panthers, Lightning. Got to take the Panthers, I think, on that one. Just straight up pro line. And then let's see. We gotta do something here with the Sens and Jets, right? So I think, given that Winnipeg's a favorite, I'm gonna take Winnipeg. Not much of a favorite, but I'll still take him. And then LA Kings, Dallas Stars, my last one. I think I'm gonna take Dallas in that one. Gotta take Dallas in that one. So that's gonna be my Sprinkle of the Day. And we don't have time for Colson's, unfortunately. Sorry, buddy. We got to get to this next bit here, our next little segment. It's Pat's Chat.
Time now for Sports Cage Pat Chat, powered by Southie Mainline Motors. The name you trust. Mainline Motors is now only 30 minutes from Regina. Amazing deals and award-winning service is now at your doorstep. SouthieMainline.ca.
By the way, never listen to me when it comes to building out a sprinkle. Not my forte. Time for Pat Chat. It is brought to you by Southie Mainline. New Jeep, used Jeep, demo Jeep, old Jeep. These guys got Jeeps. Can you tell? Yeah, we always talk about trucks, but they have, they are the king of trucks after all, but they do have Jeeps as well. Maybe you want to go take a peek. Maybe you want to go take her for a little test drive because you know what? They got the queen of Jeeps down at Southie Mainline. Go see them. It's worth a drive every time, guaranteed. And I will say, I did love me my Jeep when I was driving one. So maybe go check out Southie Mainline and get yourself into one. Okay, joining us for Pat Chat, this is Matt Paranych, the teddy bear toss goal scorer. Now that you've had a chance, Matt, how does it feel knowing that you got it in the back of the net unassisted there, first period, Saturday night? Has it soaked in? Have you absorbed it yet?
Yeah, it's definitely a cool one to score. I've definitely watched the replay back a couple times, but yeah, no, it's a great cause, and it's a super special feeling to have scored that goal and share that moment with the team, and it's always a good tradition that the Pats do, and every team in the league does it, and it's definitely really cool to score that one for sure.
29th year that they've done this. And it was, 2,182 teddy bears donated in total. I'm being very specific. But that was a game on Saturday night I felt kind of had everything. Not only was it teddy bear toss night, I mean, your teammate Maddox Schultz got his first WHL goal, got that monkey off his back. Then he got a second. And then there was a penalty shot in the game. There was a fight in the game. There was 13 goals in total. That locker room, despite the loss, had to feel a little bit different on Saturday.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, maybe me getting us sparked a little bit at the start, it wasn't the plan, going in, getting down 2-0, but, maybe I sparked us a little bit at the start to, push, but it was great for Schultz to, get his first and second goal. His second goal was really, really nice. That's a Leon Draisaitl type shot, and, like Huff said, those are the goals he's going to be scoring in his interview, and, yeah, it's definitely a live room for sure with all the goals and all that. But, it sucks that we couldn't get out with a win. But, hopefully we can come into PA and get a win.
So take me through that moment where you scored that goal. How long did it take to set in and realize, oh, these are teddy bears raining down around me?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely took a second. I just kind of grabbed it off the wall. Their D-man kind of rimmed it to me, and no one was there, so I just got it. And, I've been working a lot with our defensive coach, Ryan Smith, just getting pucks on net. And, I just tried to shoot it at the net. And at first I thought Dave Sturkach tipped it, and it went upstairs, but it ended up being their own guy who tipped it. But, sometimes you get lucky. And then all of a sudden, I had... inspo from one of my buddies who I played in Medicine Hat with, Oasis Weisblatt, and I remember when he scored the teddy bear toss goal, he did the shoot the bear celly, and so he inspired me to do that celly, and it was just kind of heat of the moment. I kind of blacked out, seeing all the teddies coming on the ice, and I had my little moment there, and it was pretty cool for sure.
What did your teammates say to you after you went into that huddle to celebrate? Radio friendly. Remember, we are on the radio.
Yeah. They were just super happy, congratulating me and, just happy for me and, great job, Maddie. It's such a cool goal, and, not too much, but, just happy for me and, congratulating me as well. So, yeah, it was fun.
Well, I'm sure it was nice to be able to, then head home after the game and have a little mini celebration with your billets there. I know that you mentioned that on ice level when we were chatting after you scored that one.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely heard it from them too, all the little billet kids at my house. We got 3 of them, so it's a little loud sometimes, but it's definitely really good for sure. They were all bugging me about it when I walked in the door. They all ran up to me and oh, great goal, it was so awesome to see, and they're great. Let me in their home, and it's definitely tough on families sometimes for sure, but they're super great people, and couldn't be more happy, and it's good to see them smile. So that's just what I try and make them do and make them happy. So it was pretty cool.
You alluded to it a little bit earlier, Matt. You guys are getting ready for Wednesday. Prince Albert Raiders in town, your barn, your house, last game before that holiday break, the Christmas break. So how are you staying focused? How are you and the rest of the guys making sure that you're not just brushing this one off and you're going to come in wholehearted, ready to get that W before you head out for a week?
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's, the first half isn't over until the end of the buzzer on the game on Wednesday. And, we had a good practice today, high tempo. And, I think we're all ready for a good challenge against PA. They're a top team in our conference, and, we want to upset them, and we want to make a statement. And, I think we have a good shot at doing that. It's the last game before Christmas. I'm sure, guys in PA's room are probably thinking, it's close to Christmas break, but, in our room, we want to get that win and, prove to Pats fans, we can make some headlines here.
I like that. Well, one game to go. Anything you want to say to the fans? Encourage them to come out?
Yeah, no, it's the
Christmas game, right? It's gonna be festive.
Christmas, so yeah, it'll be a fun one. And then you don't get to see a couple games for 10 or 12 days.
Something like that.
Saskatoon first.
Are you gonna be sticking around the city during the break?
No, I'm heading back home to Edmonton to hang out with my family for a bit, and yeah, it'll be good to get a couple days off. But like I said, Christmas break doesn't start till the end of the buzzer on Wednesday.
Okay, real quick. I know Colson's going to get mad at me because he told me that we have to go, but I need your take on the festive feast bracket that we're doing, okay? So, quickly, sour cabbage rolls or butterscotch confetti? And I'm putting them on the spot.
No idea what butterscotch confetti is, but...
The marshmallows with peanut butter. The little squares.
I mean, I have a sweet tooth, but cabbage rolls are always good. I'm Ukrainian, so my Bob always used to make really good cabbage rolls, so I'm going to have to go with the cabbage rolls on that one.
Okay, solid choice. Then we have number 4 versus number 5, seed stuffing or turkey?
Ooh, that is a tough one because turkey's either hit or miss. Sometimes you mess it up, sometimes you don't, but stuffings always seem to be good. I never used to like it, but now I do. Now I'm an all stuffing guy. I honestly like it more than turkey, so I'm going to have to go stuffing.
Okay, we got our 2 picks. Matt Paranych, of course, joining us right here on the Sports Cage for Pat Chat. It is brought to you by Saudi Mainline. New Jeep, used Jeep, demo Jeep, old Jeep. These guys, they got Jeeps. They are the king of trucks, but they also are the queen of Jeeps. So make sure that you go hit them up. Thank you so much for coming in, Matt.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having me.
We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back on the other side. This is the Sports Cage on the home of local sports in your Regina Pats on 620 CKRM and streaming at sportscage.com.